Welcome to 20 years of the Holden Commodore VN SS Group A. Hello, I'm Luke West, editor of Australian Muscle Car magazine. Incredibly, it's 2 decades since the VN was Holden's frontline fighter in tin top racing. It was the last of a long line of Holden homologation specials dating back to 1968, all designed to win the Great Race and other major tin top battles. The VN Commodore's competition life was short and not particularly sweet, although there were some highlights, as we will soon see. But its place in Holden motorsport history is undeniable, taking the fight up to the all-conquering Nissan GTRs, the cheeky BMW M3s and the hand grenade-like Ford Sierras. The VN arrived on the scene at the same time the most famous name in Australian motorsport, Peter Brock, returned home to the Holden product to take the fight up to the opposition. That helps explain the big crowds that rocked up to the 1991 Australian Touring Car Championship events at a time when the V8s didn't get much of a look in. As Seven commentator Mike Raymond said in his distinctive style, it was a case of how far for the GTR in '91. Jim Richards was the man to beat, but his young teammate Mark Skaife also won his first Touring Car Championship race in '91. Not that the Nissans had everything go their way, as we'll soon see. So sit back, enjoy highlights of the 1991 ATCC.
Be a remake of the Charles Dickens classic Great Expectations. Change the storyline, introduce some new players, and you have the cast and plot for the '91 Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Never before has a season promised so much. The old firm of Peter Brock and Larry Perkins as saddle pals once again in a pair of new VN Commodores, and they promise to give Win Percy and the factory team one tough year. And while the Sierra defectors Longhurst and Jones have been struck by a bout of M3 malaria, multi-titleist Dick Johnson and the Nissan GTR duo of Richards and Skaife still believe they have the winning edge. It's Holden versus Ford, Nissan and BMW for the '91 championship. Seven Sport welcomes you to Melbourne's Sandown Raceway and the opening round of horsepower hostilities.
Good afternoon, Australia. I'm Mike Raymond. Welcome to Sandown International Motor Raceway and, of course, the commencement of the 1991 Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship. Well, who's going to win today? Everyone says Jim Richards, but I suspect probably the reason that so big a crowd has turned out today is that Peter Brock renews his acquaintance with Holden. How competitive will the Holden be? Well, our own Niels on Wheels is out there to test the Magic V8.
Thanks, Mike. As we all know, touring car racing is really dull, but keeping the competition close is a very difficult juggle for CAMS and the touring car entrance group. This fabulous sound that you're about to hear is the Mobil 1 Racing Peter Brock Commodore. Holden, like each of the major brands, has received some special treatment over summer, so let's go and have a look at exactly who got what from Santa last Christmas.
Last year's champions had everybody worried by the time the Oran Park Grand Final was run. The Nissan GTR crushed the pack, so it's been nobbled for '91. The GTR's vital statistics are very impressive. The high-tech 6-cylinder twin-turbo produces a staggering 620 horsepower, and through its four-wheel drive technology can put it all to the road. To keep the Nissan honest, it's been forced to put on 15 kilograms since last season. The Ford Sierra has lost some supporters this season. The Brock and Longhurst teams have jumped the Sierra ship, but this car can still win races. To address the imbalance between the Sierra and the rest last year, the potent little Ford carried an extra 85 kilos. This season, the weight penalty has been removed. In addition, the car can use a 6-speed gearbox, and with more than 500 horsepower and at just 1,100 kilograms, Ford fans can still look forward to some top results. In the sprint races last year, the ageing VL Holden Commodore didn't make the grade, but in each of the Enduros, the big V8 made its presence felt. For 91, the Holden makes a competitive comeback. The new shape of the VN penetrates the air better than the last car, and the numbers look much better. The new inlet manifold freedoms mean more power, and the once bulky Commodore has slimmed down 75 kilograms to 1,250. Later in the year, around June, a 6-speed gearbox will also be available to Commodore runners. Cast your mind back to 1987, and the car to beat was the JPS BMW M3. The nimble fuel-injected BM was a giant killer. More recently, the car in an evolution form is still winning races overseas, and this season we'll quickly learn the M3 is back in a big way. Using the German rules as a base, the BMW now has more capacity and power, less weight and more rubber. This prompted the return of the factory-backed cars, and on certain tracks, these cars will be hard to beat. It all boils down to different winners at different tracks. The Nissan has great power and traction, but it's heavy. The BMW is light, but it's also light on power. If we analyse each on paper, focusing on power versus weight, the Sierra is still the package, carrying just 2.73 kilograms for every kilowatt of grunt, but it's hard on its rubber. The Nissan carries almost 3 kilograms for every unit of power, but weight and brakes are its weak point. The trusty V8 Holden comes in at slot 3 with 3.22 kilograms per kilowatt. And the new-look BMW doesn't look as strong on paper, but be assured, it's consistent and will wear down the opposition, especially on the tight tracks.
We are just about ready for round one, the 91 Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Let's check out the grid for you. Pole to Jimmy Richards in the Nissan GTR. Sharing the front line with him will be teammate Mark Scaife. Out of position number 3, it's 18 John Bowe. From position number 4, Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. From 5, it's Dickie Johnson. Out of position number 6, Win Percy, the first of the Commodores. From 7, it's Colin Bond in the Caltex Sierra. 8, Kevin Waldock, the first of the Privateers. From 9, it's Larry Perkins in the Mobil 1 Commodore. 10 is 05 Peter Brock. From 11, Tony Longhurst in the first of the B&H BMWs. Alan Jones starts out at 12 in car 20. 13.21 Mark Gibbs, the GIO Commodore. From 14.33 Bob Pearson. And rounding out the top 15, Steve Reed in the Lansvale Smash Repairs Commodore. Stand by for action. Jimmy Richards in the number 1 Nissan GTR and teammate Mark Scaife. The 91 season is racing, and it's Mark Scaife and Win Percy who just bounces out in between the Sierras and looks for third place as they come down to the left-hand. A crowd absolutely beside itself as they all go fighting for racing room through turn number 1. Now up towards the M's. And as you can see, it'll be Mark Scaife leading from Jimmy Richards. Next is Dick Johnson, then followed by Win Percy, John Bowe, Glenn Seaton is the next one through. And a great start there by Peter Brock in 05 as they come up the back straight. Look at these two Nissan supercars just run away from the fleet.
Yeah, they really are. They really are missiles, these Nissans, streaking away up the back straight the first time around. Richards over 0.6 of a second quicker than Johnson in official qualifying. And as you can see, he's already pulling out a gap on this first lap. They are super quick, these Nissans.
Yeah, great start from cars 1 and 2. Jim and Mark getting away cleanly. Good start from Win Percy, who split the Sierras momentarily. Through the S's now. Tricky run onto the main straight. It's Nissan GTR 1-2, the reigning champion in the top spot. Win Percy in 4th position, splitting the 2 Shell Sierras. Then we've got Glenn Seaton. And quite a large gap back to the next group of cars. Richards, Scaife, gap back to Johnson, Percy, Bowe. Seaton, a big gap back to Colin Bond, Kevin Waldock, Peter Brock, Tony Longhurst, Larry Perkins and Mark Gibbs.
I guess as we expected. Coming down towards the M's again. And you can see Dick Johnson with Win Percy right behind him. Actually, Win has found himself in the middle of a Shell Sierra sandwich at this stage. Glenn Seaton sits just in behind Johnson in the Peter Jackson Sierra, or Bowe I should say, as they make their way up the back straight again. One guy who apparently is having some problem, Peter Brock, who made a good start.
He's heading up behind Kevin Waldock, I believe it is. Was position 9. It has dropped a position or two there. Keep an eye today on the Benson & Hedges BMWs, Tony Longhurst and Alan Jones. Very warm day here at Sandown. If some of these heavier cars feel the pinch in the tyre department, I think we could expect to see the BMs in maybe the last 15 or 16 laps of this race.
Yeah, well, these BMs and the mobile Commodores run together for the early part of the race, at least. They are fairly close in qualifying times.
Haven't had a great deal of time for development as John Bower slips inside team leader Dick Johnson. As you can see, Glenn Seaton has been able to get by Wyn Percy. We'll see whether or not Glenn can haul in the two shell cars.
Yeah, Glenn's been very busy over the summer period, particularly with engine development with his father who builds the engine both seat. And he's pretty confident he's getting somewhere up around the sort of horsepower Dick Johnson's developing in the shell cars. And if that's the case, we should see Glenn climbing onto the back of these ones in a few laps' time.
Thanks to race cam and Dunlop, we'll have a closer look for you.
Dick would be hoping that'll snap off, or the marshals won't like that one. It comes past a couple of times.
Well, it's not going to do anything, but you're right. Aerodynamically, you wouldn't know. Minuscule, perhaps, but it's been enough for John Bower, whatever the problem is that Dick is having at the moment, for Bower to get away.
And while Bower's been going away, Seaton's slowly climbing onto the back of Johnson, so Johnson may have a problem here.
But we've got a problem for Glenn Seaton, just almost at the finishing line. A rear end problem by the look of it. Seaton is going to stop right on the finishing line, so Glenn Seaton's race is well and truly over.
This is Alan Jones, 1980 World Formula 1 champion, driving the BMW M3 for the first time.
Oh, look at the move down here by AJ.
I think AJ's just getting a little bit of practice in for when the touring car circus gets to some of the tighter tracks, and that's when the BM will really come into its own.
Looks like the guy in the BMW is keeping you fairly busy, Pete.
Yeah, I've sort of, my brakes are a little bit here going, and the right-hand rear tyre is saying, thank you very much, I've done enough Sunday driving at this stage, so I'm trying to understeer it through this corner, for instance, to take the weight off it, but I can look in the mirror there, and Tony is, here he goes. Let him go, because I was holding him up. But I changed back to first there in anticipation. As soon as he did that, so for the viewers there, I don't normally use first gear on that corner, but at the moment I'm in a bit of a limp home mode, unfortunately. I'm still looking pretty good. I think the car's very nice, but the temperature is absolutely beyond the car's capability of getting rid of it.
Well, we thought it was just you young impetuous blokes are hard on cars.
Yeah, but you know what, Crompton?
What?
I'm actually in a racing car.
You got one up on me. That's it, I'm not talking anymore. See you later.
Okay, mate.
So 2 Nissans, 2 Sierras and a Holden making the top 5. And then Wyn Percy with about the length of the back straight on Tony Longhurst, who's now past Colin Bond.
So as they head up towards the bridge, watch the speed here. Past Tony Longhurst on the outside goes Jimmy Richards. Caught that on our Nissan race cam.
But if there was room, then the BMW would monster the Nissan here. And
yes, what's this?
There is room. Cop that, Richo.
Just to have some fun.
Well, I understand that team manager Frank Gardner's in the pits at the moment. Frank, Neil Crompton here. Your boy's doing a great job.
Yeah, they're a great little car, and young Tony's enjoying himself. We usually start at the front and work slowly backwards, but today we've started at the back and worked slowly forward, so it's a bit of a change.
Coming up now in the second of the mobile VN Commodores, car number 11, sitting in behind Kevin Waldock as they go through there. Larry, the man responsible for the preparation of the 2 mobile cars. Perkins now running 14th in the field, so it hasn't been the best of days for Larry and Peter. However, they have done a great job in getting 2 brand spanking new cars up and running, and they will get quicker and become more competitive as the Touring Car Championship continues.
Hello.
Oh, problems for Tony Longhurst, car number 25.
And what's going on here?
He's got a flat tyre, has he?
He looks to be sitting down on one side, though.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And what a shame. We were just saying to Frank Gardner how great the cars were going. There's Jonesy, who's taken Longhurst, but Longhurst definitely in trouble here.
Coming out of the last turn, the pits are on the right-hand side. The throttle is all the way to the floor, and Jimmy Richards coming down to take the checkered flag. So the ex-Kiwi will lead them across the line. Richards 1, Scaife 2, a 1-2 for Nissan in the opening round hostilities in the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Splendid performance, power performance from these two. Rest of the field coming through now to finish off the race. Win Percy in car number 16, and Jim stopping to pick up the checkered flag. He certainly earned the victory here today at Sandown International Raceway.
What a crush. Jim Richards and the awesome Nissan GTR absolutely decimating the field. Richo, congratulations. That was a fabulous way to start the new season. Reigning champion, you've done the business.
Well, yeah, it was a matter of sort of getting out in front and so on, trying to hold a gap over the rest of the field. We sort of chose a little bit softer tyre than we probably should have, and so we had to work it hard at the start and then drive it nice and easy towards the end, but it paid off.
No problems with the car?
No, car was perfect, no problem.
Welcome to Simmons Plains and round 2 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Well, the weatherman has delivered a bonus here today for spectators. Gone are yesterday's showers, and we have a fine and mild afternoon with a top temperature of 21 degrees. Well, the Simmons Plains circuit is located 30k south of Launceston. It measures 2.41 kilometres and is very fast, but also very hard on brakes. Well, Australian champion Jim Richards has pole for today's event. But not everything has come up roses for Team Nissan overnight. And with the latest on that, we say good afternoon to Neil Crompton.
Yes, Mike, a difficult time for at least one of the Nissans yesterday. Mark Scaife speared off at the end of the back straight, leapt into the mud, there were bits flying everywhere. What happened?
But all I did is I turned into the big fast right-hander down the back straight, and the left-hand front disc brake rotor exploded. Cut the wheel in half, sent the tyre flat and speared off down through the paddock. So it's a pretty wild ride.
Here's how the top 10 lines up today. Jim Richards in the Nissan GTR pole position and starting alongside Win Percy in the Holden Racing Commodore. From 3 it's 30 Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. 4 17 Dick Johnson, the Shell Sierra. From 5 Colin Bond in the Caltech Sierra. Out of position number 605 Peter Brock in the Mobile Commodore. From 7 it's 18 John Bow in the second Shell car. From position 8, number 11, Larry Perkins, the second of the Mobile Commodores. From 9, 28, Kevin Waldock, and rounding out the 10, Tony Longhurst in the Benson and Hedges BMW M3. There's Jimmy Richards with Win Percy in the new VN Holden Commodore alongside. And starting position number 13, dead last in the field today, Mark Scaife, who came to grief yesterday. Watch the Nissan, it gets off. Win Percy tries to go with it on the inside. And also a great start from Glenn Seaton and the Peter Jackson Sierra as they come beneath the Dunlop Bridge. And Richards away very smartly indeed. And I think it was Dick Johnson who got the best start of them all, and he's right behind the Nissan as they go up into the hairpin. Now it'll be Richards trying to stretch it now down through the sweeper section of the racetrack as they come down here. Dickie Johnson running in second. Win Percy back in third. Fourth is Glenn Seaton, then Colin Bond. And it looks like Peter Brock also dropping out of the draft as they come tearing down the back straight here into the left-hander at Coca-Cola corner. And just look at Dick Johnson doing a good job staying in touch with the Nissan.
Tremendous start from Richards, as expected with the four-wheel drive car, but Dick Johnson came from nowhere. Blitzed Win Percy off the line, who made an initially good jump, but then slowed a little as he tried to get it away. And this is Dunlop Race Cam, the business end of the Ford Sierra, chasing the Nissan GTR, end of one lap. Jim Richards leads from Dick Johnson, Win Percy in third position in the HRT Commodore, then Glenn Seaton in fourth, and Johnson up on the outside, challenging the Nissan at the hairpin.
Now he'll try and pull it back on the inside, get the run out of the turn. Richards out of there smartly. Johnson grabs another gear as we take Dunlop Race Cam, working down to the right-hand kink in the sweeper here at Simmons Plains. They're starting to run away just a little from the field. Richards, Johnson, that is the order. Then Win Percy under siege from Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. Next is John Bow, followed by Colin Bond. Coca-Cola corner, Richards, the pole man in the Nissan GTR. Scaife up to 8th position after starting out of 13. He still has a lot of traffic to pass, because Scaife is trying to find a way past John Bow, and Bow was so incredibly fast here yesterday in the second session. It was really a disappointment to him that he didn't wind up with second quick time yesterday. Beneath the Dunlop Bridge, let's see whether Scaife can pull it this time in sheer acceleration. Bow just creases the guardrail, using the wide exit to that turn. No, he can't. He's caught in behind this Sierra. Oh, Glenn Seaton getting the short back and sides. Bow spins it.
Looped it. Deary me.
Well, that's taken the pressure off Wynne Percy, who, as Mark pointed out earlier on, has certainly got the bit between his teeth this weekend. Starting off the front row in the Holden Commodore. Bow is restarted, underway again. A little damage to the front left. And now Scaife has passed Seaton, and Wynne Percy having skipped away just a little bit.
Mark Scaife's teammate Jim Richards, according to our lap charts, has just broken the lap record. He's just done a 56.84, which cleans up Alan Jones' standing record of 56.96 in the Sierra last year.
Here's Scaife looking once again. Again, the Commodore has the edge into the turn. The Nissan has the edge coming out, but also the real estate is being soaked up by the Commodore, so it's not allowing Mark to get his car into the position he wants. He can't use the road on the exit that he'd like to, so that means he's making a slower exit.
Look at this.
The two of them are very close at the hairpin. Percy's in the box seat. Scaife having to go the hard way round. Can he switch back to the inside? Look at the Nissan, the way it grabs the road. Now he gets into position. If he can hold this when they get down to the other end, it'll be looking good. This is a tremendous scrap.
This must be very heartening for the HRT boys. This Commodore's virtually a brand new car, and it's running head-to-head with the Nissan for a few laps. This augurs well for the future.
This is door-to-door stuff too.
Fantastic racing.
There's not much Wynne can do about it, because Scaife has been able to put the right number on him. And what we were saying earlier about the car being able to put its power down out of the turns, you'll never see better evidence of it than that pass on Wynne Percy. As Neil said, Wynne was using a little bit of the real estate and then some, driving defensively. So, the order of the race, Jim Richards leading, Dickie Johnson running in second spot, and now the second of the Nissan GTRs up to third with Mark Scaife. Pretty heady stuff this side by side through the sweeper. And Bow making a big run down the outside here. Has he got him? Yes, he has. We take our race cam to see John Bow. Takes Peter Brock. So Bow now advances to 7th in the pack after dropping back to 12th position in the field. Great drive from John Bow. Brock, in the meantime, continues on in the 05 car, and he's got Larry Perkins right behind him. Then the first of the Benson and Hedges cars is our race leader, Jimmy Richards.
Peter, just watching your footwork here, it's very interesting. At the end, we can see the heel and toe and a bit of double to clutching down to first. Just explain your way around the circuit for us.
Okay, first gear here, half throttle now. Now I can flatten it. I'm in second gear. I'm going to rev limit to 7.8. Up to fourth now. I use all the road here to save the tyres. And you can see I'll get across the apex here. We're doing about 240 km at the moment. Brakes on now. Back to second now. I'm trying to use everything I can to stop. Well, the brakes are very good, but I'm trying to sort of maintain a bit of brakes towards the end of the race because, boy, it's the hardest race I've seen. Third gear around there. Up to here, brakes on. Back to second, just let it float down. Keep it straight, cross the apex, and don't oversteer here, which I'm trying very hard not to. And in second gear, third gear up here, fourth, and a little bit of fifth about now, and then put the brakes on and just hope we've got them all.
The second spot is about to be debated between Dickie Johnson and Mark Scaife. Scaife, of course, has made a huge run in the last couple of laps, and here he is closing on Dick Johnson as they come up to the hairpin. Been a tremendous performance from the young Central Coast driver after going off yesterday in what could have been an awful accident. Nissan team are back, they've rebuilt the car, started off the back. Here's second place, Scaife working down the outside of Dickie Johnson. The GTR goes through and takes second place away from Dick Johnson, who fights to keep the inside running for the next turn. Can he do it? Or will he let the GTR go? No, he'll fight for it probably. Side by side out of this turn, but the Nissan will get the power on much quicker. Came across the front of Dick as well.
Good scrap here with Colin Bond in the Caltex Ford Sierra being attacked by the BMW. Aren't they fabulous under brakes? Tony Longhurst goes through, and Longhurst doing again to the field what he did at Sandown, and that's just running consistently and picking them off one by one as they start to smoulder. Gee, Wynne's closed right up now on Johnson, who's probably starting to find himself running a little thin on rubber. The difficult thing with the Sierra is the tyres on the car are so narrow, and the car has so much horsepower, and there's a lot of real stop-and-go corners on this track which promote wheel spin on the exit, and the tyres do not like that as Dick locks up the rears and spins.
Yeah.
Locked up his rear brakes, heading into the hairpin, and backs around. He'll be cursing and swearing. Win Percy skates through to third place as Dick tries to do 100 mile an hour backwards.
Well, he's going to try and whip it around and then catch it again and get going.
Oh.
Well, if he had tyre problems before, I think he's...
That cooled him down.
I'll be happy when it's all over, Mark. It's been a pretty heavy weekend with Mark having an off yesterday in the car. But it's going well now and hope it keeps going that way.
And gee, problems, Win Percy.
Yeah, just took third place and here he is slowing down on the back straight.
We've now got Glenn Seaton molesting Dick Johnson.
Johnson's going for tyres.
Yep.
So Seaton to third, Johnson to the pits for some rubber. Percy stranded past the hairpin. And a real mixed bag. We've got Nissans clearing out from the pack.
Yep. Order is Richards over Scaife. Glenn Seaton now moving into third. And that would probably move Tony Longhurst up into fourth.
There go the BMs, they're doing it again.
Yep. He's put on a good show today. Win Percy got the Holden up on the front row. Long walk back here at Symmons Plains to the pits.
So the Shell car splits the two mobile entries, and this is the battle for 6th, 7th and 8th. So the order, Jim Richards the leader from Mark Scaife. Glenn Seaton is in third, then Longhurst Bond, and Dick Johnson passes Peter Brock to now move up into 5th. Brock is 6th, Perkins is 7th. Behind Perkins, Alan Jones 9th, Kevin Warlock 10th, John Bow coming back out of the pits and rejoining the fray. Then Mark Gibbs with Win Percy having retired, and there's the stricken car number 16 car off to the side of the road. Coming up to 49 minutes of racing, so we're getting very close to checkered flag time.
We'll either have the checkered flag, these are timed races, 50-minute races. Depends how close they are to the 50-minute mark. This will either be the last corner or they'll have one more lap to go after this. Checkered flag time, we believe. 1-2 at Symmons Plains for the Nissan GTR team as they take first and second in round number 2. A fantastic 1-2 as well, and I think all credit must go to Freddie Gibson, certainly to Mark Scaife today after the problems of yesterday, to come off the back of the field, dispense with the Sierras and then finish on the tail of his team leader Jim Richards in the run to the flag. And also great to see Glenn Seaton picking up a major placing third. That'll put him on the rostrum here today for the Peter Jackson team. Equally a fine performance from Tony Longhurst finishing in 4th, and Dick Johnson will show in the 5th spot.
Similar tracks really, the first 2 rounds, Sandown and Symmons, but from here on in, tight and twisty stuff. The BMs will be looking good.
They will, as you know, as Tony was sort of keeping up with me towards the end, and that wasn't because I was letting him, that was because our car had done the job and the tyres were getting a bit, a bit second hand, and so come the shorter tracks, they're going to be real good.
Welcome to Perth's Wanneroo Park Raceway and round 3 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship, a series that has been dominated totally by Jim Richards, Mark Scaife and Nissan in particular. Well, to you Holden, Ford and BMW devotees hoping for something just a little different here today, your prayers have been answered. 4 times Australian champ Dick Johnson has pole position in the Ford Cosworth, and sharing the front row with him, Holden's Win Percy. What a race it promises to be. Not the happiest of days for Nissan yesterday. Some violent understeer problems. Here was Jimmy Richards in the morning session going straight ahead, trying to pull the car up. Then in the later session in the afternoon, Mark Scaife, talk about understeer and oversteer, Mark took it down to the sand trap in the bottom turn. Then this morning, of course, John Bow blowing a turbo. A lot of work for the Dick Johnson team with their second car. It will start from the back of the field today. Dick off the front and John Bow starting off the back line in company with Larry Perkins. But boy, really did cause a bushfire alert. We're ready to go racing round number 3 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Ford's Dick Johnson, Holden's Win Percy are about to go at it. And they're racing. Johnson, a beautiful start, and Mark Scaife down the outside in the Nissan. Jimmy Richards trying to get up there. Tony Longhurst wasn't on the inside, but it'll be Johnson into the first turn, and maybe that's Scaife up into second. Very, very tight running in the turn as they work their way up towards the S's, and it's Johnson. Mark Scaife up smartly, Win Percy, then Jimmy Richards. So Johnson's plan in this race is to get away from the pack and to do a pit stop on lap number 20.
running on softer compound tyres. He hopes he can spring a surprise on the Sierra set. And again, it's good afternoon to Neil Crompton, to Mark Osler.
Johnson here sprinting away, car 17. This is the plan, but look at Scaife, a fantastic start off the second row of the grid. Launched into second position. He's going to push Johnson hard, but look at Percy. Bogged down a little bit on the start as well, but he's right up there in third as they head down to the pit straight.
Here's Seaton coming down again, keeping the pressure on Tony Longhurst. There's Peter Brock, the 05 Mobile VN Commodore. We take Jim Richards' Nissan race cam, and we've also got a race cam riding with Peter Brock here today, so we believe we've got the front half of the field covered fairly well. Here Brocky doing a bit of heavy breathing there as he works the Commodore fairly hard, trying to stay in touch here with Glenn Seaton. Johnson still opening that gap just a little. Mark Scaife unable to run away from the clutches of Wynne Percy.
Fred Gibson said this morning that you know, they're very worried. They've been to Lakeside and tested, and the BMW is well and truly their match there. And I still think that we're going to see something pretty exciting from that little yellow car in the background there in the coming 40 minutes.
As he's getting a little closer to the tail of Jim Richards. Richards now sitting and making life fairly uncomfortable for one Wynne Percy as we take Nissan race car coming up through the S's, heading to the left-hander of the Shell Sweeper. Johnson still, the gap looks about the same visually. There's not too much in it. But I think Jim is getting all over the tail now of Wynne Percy. May even dive to the inside here on the entrance to Cobb Corner. Fairly close and just finds a little opening. Not much in it, let me tell you, but a beautiful pass there from Jimmy Richards.
Look at Longhurst.
And Longhurst is in this. And he comes ranging up on the outside. The V8's got a bit too much grunt to the top of the hill.
Gee, this is a pretty good
under brakes.
Here he comes, darts straight down the inside.
Wynne was able to cover the ground at the very last minute, but the BMW's braking performance is outstanding. Dick Johnson, you're working pretty hard at the wheel there as we take Dunlop race cam. Is the strategy going to work?
Oh, God only knows, mate. It's got more pops than a lollipop shop at the moment, but it's just a gamble, Mike. We're just going to see how it pans out in the end.
What did you hope to have over the two Nissans when you pull in for your pit stop?
Well, the way this thing's going at the moment, I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah? You have got to do a pit stop, Dick. There's no way you can go all the way?
No, mate, it's just sort of, you do this to me, Mike. I don't know how you do it.
I haven't.
Yeah, you have.
Oh, mate, I've given you the kiss of death again. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's all right. It's just the way it is. Just the way it is, pal.
Well, you can see the advantage of race cam. No sooner talking to Dick Johnson and the engine's gone pop. Dick has gone to the pits. His chance of winning round 3 today have gone completely, and we now have a Nissan 1-2 set up with, of course, Wynne Percy chasing hard in the Holden number 16 VN Commodore. And we all suggest that maybe Tony Longhurst could be the sleeper in this race a little later on as he wears them down. And this dice continues between Brocky and Alan Jones. Jones going down on the inside to take that spot away.
Well, Peter's giving Alan heaps of room there. He probably realises that he's fighting a losing battle under brakes, but he's got what it takes in a straight line. Peter, there's been real difficulty trying to get this car to balance the way you want it to. You're making any progress?
I sort of want to Bondi a bit here, but I can't pressure him enough at the moment because, for instance, where I'm right now, if I accelerate too hard, the left-hand rear is just wants to skate out. So. Hello?
That doesn't sound too
Hello,
good.
we've just lost some power.
We'll let you go back to work. Well, that's Peter was looking across at the switching in the middle of the car where he's got a couple of alternative fuel pumps, and the thing just started to snatch and carry on. It's making a dreadful noise as it goes past our commentary point. So the first reaction for him to do then was to shut down the existing pump and switch another on. But maybe he's got more problems than just fuel pumps.
I'm glad we haven't got 10 race cams today. I think we've put the bookers on just about everyone so far that we talked to.
So the Nissans are still maintaining their consistency, and we've still got Jim Richards hard on the heels of Mark. But boy, Wynne is fighting one heck of a battle here at the moment.
with Tony, who's monstering him left, right and centre in all the spots that you'd predict the BMW would be good. And then this happens, the 520 odd horsepower of the Holden leap away from the BMW in a straight line, and then back comes Tony again under brakes, and boy doesn't he push it hard. Oh, and Percy runs wide.
How quick was that? Down the inside, look for Percy to come fighting back, but he won't get Longhurst before the next right-hander. That now pole vaults Tony Longhurst up into third behind the two Nissans, Scaife and Jimmy Richards. And that happened ever so quickly.
Sorry to interrupt, Mike. I got a feeling that Wynn's got a flat tyre or something of that nature. The car just looked very unstable when we could see that shot in the cockpit a few minutes ago, and wouldn't surprise me at all if Wynn had to make a pit stop.
Standing with me is Dick Johnson, and Dick, we seem to put the race cam kiss of death on you again. What happened to the 17 car?
Well, everything was going to plan there early in the race, and then the old engine's a bit tired. It really should have been changed before this race, but we had a couple of problems earlier in the week and we ran out of engine, so it ran a bit too long, and towards the end it just started getting worse and worse, and rather than just throw away $30,000, I thought I'd stop.
Okay, Dick Johnson, thanks very much. Not a good weekend for the Shell team, Mike.
No, certainly not, Mark, and we've noticed Wynn Percy come in. You might like to check that situation out. We thought he may have had a deflating tyre on the Holden in the last lap, and that's the reason he's in. But you can check that out for us as we follow the two Nissan GTRs.
It was very much a guesstimation on my part. You shouldn't speculate, I suppose, but there was certainly a real instability in the car, and it just...
he got him so quickly as well.
Yeah, the thing just wobbled and lurched, so the team are having a look under there at the moment. Not a lot of urgency, though, and I think Wynn's got his helmet off, so it's game, set and match for Holden race team. And Larry Perkins is also coming to the pits. Gee, you wouldn't want to be in a Holden today.
The order at this stage is still Nissan 1-2 with Tony Longhurst back in third, and I would think that Glenn Seaton and the Peter Jackson Sierra would be fourth, and probably Alan Jones up into fifth spot.
And Brock's also decided to give the game away in the 05 car. It's astonishing because the strength of the Holden has always been unbelievable reliability, and suddenly this weekend, for no apparent reason, these cars are giving trouble. I think Larry's stop was merely for tyres, so the number 11 mobile car continues.
There certainly aren't any team orders as to who runs first and second. They race for it, and Jim was thinking about maybe a run down the inside. But the bottom turn coming up, last turn now as they come out, headed towards the checkered flag, and chalk up another 1-2 to Nissan. This time it's Mark Scaife who takes the victory. Second place will go to Jimmy Richards, and back about 12 or 14 seconds behind them, Tony Longhurst in the Benson & Hedges BMW will be next in to pick up third place. His fourth will go to Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Ford Sierra, and fifth to Alan Jones in the number 20 B&H car.
And the winner, the first time he's won an Australian Touring Car Championship round. Fabulous drive, Mark. Everybody was very pleased for you. You must be thrilled.
Thanks, Crumbo. Yeah, it was very good. I'd just like to thank Nissan for their efforts, because the car doesn't suit the circuit overly well, and the boys worked very, very hard through the week to make it a good package, and the car was fantastic.
Mark Scaife, the winner of this third round, as I say, a tremendous effort on everybody's part.
Welcome to Seven's coverage of the fourth round of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championships from Lakeside. You know, this race at this place always produces something a little different, and today should be no exception. Jimmy Richards has pole position over Tony Longhurst BMW, but the split is a mere 25/100ths of a second. It promises to be quite a race.
Might be timely to check out the grid now, the top 10 for you. Jim Richards on pole in the Nissan with a 53.43. Tony Longhurst a little unlucky yesterday, a 53.68. Mark Scaife in the second of the Nissans out of position number 3, and Wynn Percy the first of the Holdens from 4. Glenn Seaton from 5 in the Peter Jackson Sierra. John Bow in the Shell Sierra from 6. From 7 it's Alan Jones in the second of the B&H Bimmers. From 8.05 Peter Brock in the Mobile Commodore. From 9.28 Kevin Waldock. Out of 11 car number, or out of 10 I should say, car number 11 Larry Perkins. There's your top 10. And Dick Johnson not on the top 10 here this afternoon, but he'll be starting 2 back from there, from position number 12. And a lot of work to do this afternoon for Dick Johnson. So welcome back Gary Wilkinson and Neil Crompton. Expect Longhurst to lose out in the drag to the first turn, the right-hander at the carousel. We're about 5 seconds away from round 4 of the Shell Championship, coming to you from Lakeside Raceway in Queensland. Watch the Nissans off the line. Off. Richards, goodbye everyone. And look at Wynn Percy, an absolutely sensational start. He'll pick up probably thought, I think Glenn Seaton will nobble him and get third as they go down to the carousel for the first time, but it'll be a Nissan 1-2. Richards leading from Scaife, then a brilliant start by Glenn Seaton and the Peter Jackson, who gets a drop kick straight from Wyn Percy from behind. He'll come in about the middle of the field behind Peter Brock as Steve Reed goes through and the two Nissans disappear. But right behind the Nissan boy have we got one heck of a race going.
What a shame for Glenn Seaton. He made a blinding start there, but he suffered some damage too in running off the circuit, some panelling hanging off the side of the cupboard. Look at those Nissans go up front, 1-2. What a familiar sight that's becoming.
Best start of the race. What about Dick Johnson? Out of 12, and he's sitting right in here behind Tony Longhurst. John Bauer, brilliant start also in car number 18. So the two Dick Johnson cars on the move. So too Peter Brock.
Major change in suspension overnight for Dick Johnson and a new engine.
It's also a terrific start from Wyn Percy in third position. He's cleared himself away from that pack where you're likely to do some damage or scrub your tyres up trying too hard. He can concentrate now on the Nissans as we focus on this scrap between John Bowe and Tony Longhurst. And Dunlop Racecam shows how hard Dick Johnson's working at the moment as he goes beneath the Dunlop Bridge. In the trickiest part of the Lakeside complex, the cars actually leap up here onto two wheels, then through the left-hander at Hungary. Look at Longhurst on the inside of Bowe, moves through. The nimble BMW is definitely the threat this weekend.
Yes, I don't think there was any doubt that Longhurst would always lose the run to the first turn out of sheer horsepower, and the Nissans being so great off the starting line. But if Tony can put it all together, one lap after another for probably about 54 circuits here this afternoon, he could be right up there at the checkered flag.
Also a great improvement this weekend from the Mobile One Racing team, Peter Brock and Larry Perkins. They've found some speed from those cars, and you'll notice that Brock's right in behind Johnson at the moment. The Mobile cars are actually running slightly harder tyres than the Holden Racing team entry. It'll be interesting to see which of the strategies works out in this race, where we're expecting to see some pit stops. In fact, the top three in last year's race all did the same. Look at Longhurst, a big rush down the inside. Percy locks a brake, one small mistake and bang.
Yes, no chance for Wyn to recover there.
Notice also Colin Bond there in the Caltex entry. Remember, he was last year's race winner. He was quiet all week, took it very sensibly, and all of a sudden was leading the race and confounded all the heroes.
Yes, and he'll be adopting the same strategy again here today, running the hardest compound tyres that he can lay his hands on, and he'll just stooge around out there all day and wait for the rest of them to fall over. At least that's what he'll be hoping.
He's got Alan Jones tucked in behind him, so the order at the moment is still Jim Richards from Mark Scaife. In third place, Tony Longhurst. Fourth, we've got... And listen to this car and Brock's roar on the race cam. It's distracted me from whatever it was I was saying. Good pictures.
Sounds like a proper race car.
Yes, anyway, Wyn Percy, I think, is fourth, is what I was going to say. Then John Bowe in fifth, and then Peter Brock in sixth.
Look at Percy and Johnson. Johnson on soft compound rubber. Percy, as I understand it, on fairly hard tyres going down. So he's been able to outrun Johnson to the carousel again.
Longhurst is 3.2 seconds behind Jim Richards now, so as Jim threaded through traffic, he was able to make some ground. One of the problems with the BMW is that if someone takes your line away from you or upsets you in any way, it's a hard car to spool back up the speed, as Wyn Percy now waves Dick Johnson by, probably realising that he's holding him up. So with the Nissan, which is quite a torquey car and the benefit of the turbo, you can afford to pull offline occasionally and get into positions that you wouldn't normally get into and drive away. With the BM, it's a car that you've got to drive 11 tenths.
Yeah, you've got to get the momentum going.
Well, here they come down the start, finishing straight, and he's still doing it, Longhurst. It's not going to happen in the next two laps.
Oh, he's got the gap down to 2.4 seconds, so we have got a race.
Dick Johnson slams into pit lane. The air jacks are in, quickly drilled through. They said they could do this in about 15 seconds. The 24s had their racing life for the first few laps. I was talking to the tyre technicians. I said the track temperature is down about 7 degrees on yesterday, but the wear rate still seems to be fairly high on Johnson's car.
Thank you, Mark. Good call there as Dick Johnson comes bounding out of the pit area, and he's about to have a lap put on him by the front-running Nissans.
I put the clock on Johnson as he came into the actual pit paddock area or pit lane area from where he exited, and it was 30.75 seconds, so that's a more realistic timing of how long it takes. just changing wheels and tyres is not necessarily what it's all about. You've got to get in and out, and that's what costs the time.
Every second in here, in a sprint race, I can see the results going down the curve, so they're going as fast as they can. All Jackson here, Percy out.
Peter, I was just saying, you're working to try and catch John Bowe. What can you do about him?
Unfortunately, I'm down a bit on horsepower, but I'm just conserving at the moment. I've got a bit of an iron Glen seat behind me, but I could just have to concentrate on just getting a few clean laps together and give the car a bit of a respite, because there's no point in beating it around if I can't pass Bowie.
Peter, how are the tyres holding up? You decided to go for some fairly hard stuff.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
A little bit of understeer there. You see those going by. We might let Peter go back to work, and we'll chat to him after. You come and hammer me after this now.
He sure will. Looks like the Dulux Auto Colour Commodore there on the infield. I'm not going to talk to him. I put the muckers on everyone 2 weeks ago. Johnson stopped, and when I was talking to Brock, he stopped.
And when Brock talks to Crompton, he'll stop.
Oh, the problem for Terry Finnegan, the Foodtown Commodore. Got just a little tailie off the top of the Motorcraft hill, around sideways, able to pick it back up. So the Foodtown Commodore continues with Terry Finnegan at the wheel. We take the Nissan race cam, sits on top of Mark Scaife's GTR. He comes on to the home straight here at Lakeside. Great overview of the circuit. The left-hand keep now down the inside of the white Commodore. And there's his team partner, Jimmy Richards, just up ahead.
I think you'll find the race will slow down towards the end.
You're hoping?
Well, you better believe it. Otherwise, I've wasted my time. I would have been better off having a beer, eh?
Coming down for the approach shot to Hungary Corner.
In fact, the four cars, Bowe, Seaton, Brock, Jones, are separated by very, very little. And there goes Jonesy through on the inside. That tyre squealing that you could hear was Brock's, obviously.
But Jones all the time is closing. Now his seat there. John, get on with it, he said.
Give him a nudge there and knock a bit of bodywork off the back of John Bowe's car.
Glenn says that's fair. He copped one in the first corner. Oh, and he's rubbing a tyre too, so that's going to really add to the woes. And now here comes Glenn Seaton, again down.
56.1 on that last lap for the guys, so they've drifted away by about 2 seconds from their earlier qualifying, very obviously. I'm surprised the times are still that good. This damage on the right rear of Bowe's car is not good news for the 8.
Jones, look at him. Oh, gee, he had a big go there.
Certainly has. Now that's going to keep Glenn busy here for a moment or two. As they come screaming beneath the Dunlop Bridge, they head downhill to the left-hander at Hungary Corner. Watch Jones on the inside. Here he is, nibbling away here in the Little Bimmer. Jones would be just thoroughly enjoying all of this. He'd prefer to be up the top end of the field, giving them a hammering.
Step out of the pits.
Nissan race cam in Mark Scaife's car. He's in second spot. Jim Richards not in view at this moment. There he is, just disappearing in the distance. Still leading the race, Scaife in second. Tony Longhurst running third.
Here goes Jimbo. Going to give it one hell of a try. Goodbye. Now he's got to try and get the anchors on and try and hold Jonesy out. Jonesy is going to try and go around the outside, is he?
Yeah, try and snooker Seaton behind Waldock. That's what he'll try and do. No, he's run out of road.
The big drama for this poor guy is that the Nissan makes about its first 4 seconds in the first 300 yards. They're so astonishing off the line with the benefit of four-wheel drive. It's very hard in any form of motor racing to give an immediate gap to a competitor and then get it back, particularly if you're on a reasonably equal standing in terms of lap speed.
It's pretty close. Could be the last corner coming up as they come out, heading down towards the start-finishing line. Checkered flag is out, and across the line they go. Coming home to beat teammate Mark Scaife in the number 2 Nissan for second. Third going to Tony Longhurst. Fourth to Glenn Seaton, and should be fifth to Alan Jones.
We knew that the BMW was going to be hard to beat, and Jimmy drove fantastically well. We tortured each other for the whole distance.
I looked at my stopwatch, and I don't know whether I've got a happy trigger figure, but I saw heaps of low 54s. Was that right?
Well, I think it was, but the sun's so bad you couldn't see it anyway. All I saw was him getting away from me, and I was trying to catch.
All right, and to the winner, Jim Richards, well done, Jimmy. Everybody was thrilled to see another fine win from you. You must be pleased.
Thanks, Neil. Yeah, for sure. You know, Mark's a hard guy to have behind you, I can tell you. I think I'd rather have Tony.
Welcome to wonderful Winton in northeastern Victoria, race 5 of the 9-round Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Well, not a lot has changed. Nissan's GTR domination of pole position has continued. Jim Richards has pole position here today, sharing the front row with him, Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. From position number 3, Holden fans take hope it's Win Percy. From 4, Dickie Johnson in the Shell Sierra. And from position number 5, Mark Scaife in the second Nissan GTR. Dickie Johnson 10 seconds away from the action at Winton Motor Raceway at Benalla. Racing Richards goes a look at Scaife on the dirt, trying to get a hold of it and pick up Seaton before the first turn, but he's muscled into 3rd place. Percy goes back to 4th, 5th is Bond, and Dick Johnson has missed out terribly there. In fact, John Bow will probably pick up a point as they stream out of here going up towards the sweeper with Jimmy Richards in front. Settling into 2nd, and a great second too is Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. Then comes Mark Scaife, who had all sorts of problems yesterday in qualifying. I don't know whether these stewards will have something to say about using the grass verge getting off the line. And Johnson, who started in the 2nd row, was actually muscled out before they made it to the first turn.
Yes, Bond, Bow and Johnson all had brake lock-ups at the end of the pit straight the first time, and it looked like there may have been some contact, but Scaife's start was unbelievable. He just went straight to the dirt and did some rallycross. Up to 3rd place now, so he's clear of Win Percy. Richards the leader at the end of lap number 1 from Seaton, then it's Scaife in position 3, Percy in 4, then Bond, Bow, Johnson, followed then by Alan Jones, Tony Longhurst, Larry Perkins, Peter Brock, Finnegan and Ashby.
The usual rocket start from Richards GTR. Dick Johnson joked yesterday the only way Seaton will beat him off the line is if he turned hard right when the light went green. That's about the only way he'd do it.
The restart that Neil called for off the starting line. Let's turn right, get out on the loose stuff and run. And that's exactly what happened for Mark Scaife. I think that was a planned move, but he sits in behind Glenn Seaton's Peter Jackson Sierra. Tries to take advantage of that into the turn, but Seaton closed the door on him, and that's the way they're still running on the road at the moment.
That 4-wheel drive's handy.
The Leyland brothers would have been proud of him.
Here we take our 7 Sport race cam and Peter Brock's Mobile 1 Commodore, the right-hander past the start-finishing line, the downhill run to the tightening right-hander here as he sits behind Tony Longhurst. Just ahead of Longhurst is Alan Jones, Dick Johnson, and leading that pack is John Bow in the number 18 Shell Sierra.
Interesting tyre war exists here. We've got Richards on Yokohama, Cito running Bridgestone. Then we've got Mark Scaife in 3rd position, also Yokohama, and Win Percy 4th on Dunlop, and all producing pretty even performance in this early stage of the race, with only coming up to 12 minutes down.
This is all getting serious as Mark Scaife up on the inside of Glenn Seaton takes over 2nd spot. Nissan's 1-2. Glenn Seaton now back to 3rd.
Just interesting to notice that the Nissan crew look as though they're preparing themselves for a stop. I have no idea why that would be occurring.
There's certainly a bit of activity down with the Nissan boys.
Jim Richards comes up onto the pit straight and continues.
Freddie's got the
Mark Scaife,
yeah, it's Mark Scaife.
It looks like he may be penalised for
stop and
is
go
it just a stop-go?
Yeah, it's a stop-go penalty. No spanners coming out. The car just comes in, stops, and out again. And that would have had something to do with his tractor trip down the inside along the grass at the start. So Scaife rejoins the circuit just in front of Colin Bond.
I tell you what, they waited long enough to give him the penalty, though. Like, he's fought his way all the way up to past Glenn Seaton, and then I would have thought that penalty would have been on within the opening 3 laps. That's what happens in the States, anyway.
Not real happy, Mike.
I didn't think you'd be.
No, I can't understand. Like, it's a bit late making that decision. Also, like, okay, that's the start. It was up in the grass, 2 wheels in the grass. They said 4. The stewards here this weekend are sort of getting a bit over cautious, I think, with what they're doing. I'm not real happy with the decision at all, but like, I think we'll come back through the field and we'll probably see a good race now.
But I think he's got problems, correct, Dick?
Mate, it's got the mating call. You know?
No, I'm not going to touch that with a barge pole.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, the way it's going, it feels like a seat fly. Here's old LP, thinks he's doing real good.
Yeah.
Actually, I was quite surprised, Mike, that...
There he goes.
Yeah, well, I've got to let him go, the poor guy. I'm sort of kind of holding him up. He's the worst guy in the world to get past old LP.
Yeah, why's that?
He's got the widest car in the world.
Are you planning on making a pit stop,
But
Dick?
even the Sierra on one cylinder's got as much front as the Commodore.
Oh, come off. This is his chance now, the back straight. Pulls to the outside quickly. Runs up alongside the door of Win Percy. Win's in no mood to settle and give him a run, but he does at the last moment, and that was a good pass from Mark Scaife. Good pass.
Peter's having a good scrap here at the moment. It's Bondi.
Peter's in 9th place at the moment. Just ahead of him is John Bow, and ahead of him is Colin Bond.
Whoops, and that was close, Rocky. Whoa, 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 whoa. Even the experience can be all arms and legs at times. Here's the scrap that I spoke about before with Tony Longhurst getting closer to the back of Win Percy's car. We've talked on many occasions this year about the consistency of the BMW. Neither Tony nor Alan happy that they have a soft enough race tyre for this track this weekend. And look at Tony probing up the inside and makes the space and quickly goes underneath. Win was pretty casual then in his defence, so I'd suggest that he's unhappy with the grip that his car's got and not really interested in putting up a fight, knowing that Tony's going to get him anyway. So a slightly dejected Win Percy, I'd suggest, judging by the way Tony was able to do that so quickly. Probably a little bit disappointed. Here's the top of Nissan GTR. That's it. I couldn't think of the name of the rotten thing. And Mark Scaife at the helm, chasing Glenn Seaton.
Keeping in mind that Scaife has had that stop-and-go penalty. He's come clawing his way back through the field. Looks to poke the nose down, a little show and tell here with Glenn Seaton.
Mike, what you see from this view is how effective the Nissan is out of tight corners. Watch when it comes out of Penrite, which is the next right-hander, how much room Mark can play in where the Ceto can't. Look at this. Yeah. And then when he stomps on the gas here, it just goes and off she goes. All the grip in the world, and a pretty casual pass into second place. They could not have calculated any finer. That's not encouraging sound, is it?
Here's some skipping.
Colin Bond, that was, with the rear brakes all locked up. He's still having stride, and it's still going.
Laughing Jack.
It was about a 400-metre lose there. Bondi gathers it up. Bow takes the position away from him. And I wonder what was going on there.
That started at the end of the back straight. That was like a 15-second lose for Bondi.
Coming up for the run down the back straight now, you should see Seaton switch to the inside. Here he goes.
See you later, Dick.
So, one lap put on Dick Johnson by young Glenn Seaton. That'll cap off a great 26th birthday today because he's going to get a slice of the rostrum again.
Well, we're halfway through the Australian Touring Car Championship, and that usually means that Bathurst is a fairly short time away. As far as Sierras are concerned, this will be the car to watch up there.
Checkered flag at the ready, and it'll be Jimmy Richards to come out of the last turn. Here he comes, and the 5th round at Winton goes to Jimmy Richards. Teammate Mark Scaife takes 2nd, and 3rd place is in fact going to go to Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra, car number 30. 4th to Tony Longhurst in the BMW, car number 25.
Mark Scaife, I guess you're a pretty frustrated man, although it was a fabulous drive back through the field.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably the hardest I've worked for a fair while, Croppo. It's off the line. You know, we were lucky enough to get down the grass there and not get punted out, and then to stop and go and come back through made us work pretty hard for our money.
Round 6 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Here's the lineup. John Bowen, the Shell Sierra on pole, and Dickie Johnson starts alongside. Mark Scaife in the Nissan GTR out of 3. Tony Longhurst in the first of the BMWs from 4, and from 5 at 0.5. Good qualifying effort from Peter Brock. From 6, Alan Jones in the M3. From 7, Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. From position 8, Colin Bond in the Caltech Sierra. From 9, it's Win Percy in the Holden Commodore. 10, Larry Perkins in the Commodore. 22, the back of the field, Jimmy Richards. They're ready to go racing in round number 6. What a view Jimmy has. Right at the tail of the field. The Shell team, the front row, they're racing, and John Bowen gets out smartly. Johnson picks up a quickie, and right up the inside comes Mark Scaife, not on the grass today as they head up Bitchapave Hill for the first time. Brilliant start from Win Percy back in the pack, but it's going to be crowded up the front as Johnny Bowen has caught 1 out and 1 back from Dick Johnson. There's a little gap opening up on the inside, but Bowen closes it off.
Former national champion leads it. Dickie Johnson, but look at the Nissan GTR. All over the two Johnson cars, and a brilliant start from Tony Longhurst in the BMW. They come down to Sutton's for the first time.
Scaife was faced with a wall of shell cars as he made his way to the top of the hill for the first time. He tried every which way to get around, but he dare not take to the grass after the last episode, so he finds himself in third position from Longhurst, and then Peter Brock with newfound form, car 05 in fifth place, then Seaton, Percy and Jones.
Jones missing a gear coming out of the turn there, and Jimmy Richards also starting to sort them out at this stage. He's already passed about 5 cars as Queensland's Dick Johnson brings them up Bitchapave Hill. Teammate Johnny Bow, the pole sitter in the 18 Shell Sierra. Mark Scaife is one back behind them, and Richards position 13 after 1 lap. How good was that?
And we're now starting to see 4 cars really tighten up here in a battle, and the other thing is that Win Percy's dropped away from the group slightly, and Jim Richards is getting closer to him. I think within maybe 10-12 laps or so, with Richards in 9th, you're going to see another red, white and blue Nissan amongst this lot.
I think you're right. Down to the late corner under brakes. Scaife trying to get the car straight and get up the inside here of Johnny Bow. Can he do it? Bow's going to pull across. No, Scaife will get the run to the turn, so Mark Scaife parts the Shell team. It's Johnson leading, Scaife in second, Bow in third, right behind them Longhurst. And here's Jimmy Richards starting out of position 22, climbing the hill, going out after them, running 9th on the road at the moment and closing on Win Percy. Tony right on the tail now of Bow.
Mark Gibbs incidentally coasting and looks like he's heading back to the pits in the GIO Commodore.
And there is Longhurst through, you just saw it, Longhurst has broken. The trail gets by Johnny Bow. Can Brock do the same? Is the Nissan race cam. We're riding with Jimmy Richards. And there, one of the Corollas getting the blow by as he moves up on the tail of the Peter Jackson Sierra with Glenn Seaton at the wheel. Looking for 8th spot. And there he goes. Fantastic driving from Richards as they come down to the late corner. Now can Peter Brock get past Johnny Bow?
Finnegan in terrible trouble over at the top at Dunlop. Rescues himself and gets on with it again.
Here on the inside comes Alan Jones, but Rocky gets out of there pretty smartly. He knows exactly where Jones is. And in fact, getting pretty close to our race leader. There's Alan Jones going through on the inside of Peter Brock. So he's already joined one, and up at the front, Dick Johnson is under a bit of pressure from Mark Scaife. They're heading up Bitchapave Hill, just ahead of this group.
All that dust that you can see is from Bob Pearson's product Commodore. He had to lose previous lap, and the dust still settling itself. Now Scaife's in a position to do something about Johnson. Coming out of the BMW.
To the late turn, tries to pull up on the inside. The two of them race side by side up to the next turn. Wheel-to-wheel stuff through the turn. Now watch the power of the Nissan. It gets up on the inside. Johnson almost got him pocketed in the slower car. Nothing between that. You saw the race lead taken from the Dunlop race cam. Mark Scaife takes the lead at the top of the hill. Johnson is back on the inside, but look who's there. Tony Longhurst splits the pair of them. The giant killer working away on the inside of Johnson, now on the tail of Mark Scaife as they work the back straight in, without doubt, the closest touring car race of season 91.
53.5 the last time through for this leading bunch.
And well, that looked like it was going to be a challenge for the moment on the inside. Let's see if Scaife can get away. Power comes into play with the four-wheel everything of the Nissan. Heading down to the late turn. Johnson hanging in with them. Now, can Scaife get away from Tony Longhurst? Down to the left-hander at Sutton's, Peter Brock, 05 car. Here comes Richards up on the inside. Now watch the acceleration here. Brock on the outside, Richards down the inside, and the race to the right-hander at the late. Brock on the brakes. Richards feinting the outside. Watch him cut back on the inside and try and get it straight for the run to the next turn. And that's exactly what he does. Takes Brock here and advances one more shot. Richards from the back of the field, position number 22. Now going out after Dick Johnson. A superb drive, this one. Oh, getting a tail out just a little bit on the exit to that. Longhurst.
This is a good indication of what a monstering this Nissan's giving us tyres. The car's starting to get more and more out of shape each time around, whereas Longhurst is keeping it dead straight.
The gap fairly constant then back to Alan Jones, and then Jim Richards.
they continue to set this pace. I rather doubt Richards can make it up onto the tail of Longhurst. And Longhurst is giving Mark Scaife a fearful time as they come across the line. This is where the Nissan gets away from heading up to the top of the hill.
Jones is only 4.6 seconds behind this battle now. I wouldn't mind betting that you're going to end up with a situation with 4 cars potentially battling for the lead. 2 Nissans, 2 BMWs. And I think the leader will be...
Here it is! Tony Longhurst down on the inside of Mark Scaife. Now, that will obviously get Scaife back wanting to take the lead.
Beautifully clean manoeuvre by Longhurst there. Cleaned up Scaife on the exit to Dunlop Loop. So, for the first time in a long time, a BMW leads the round of the Touring Car Championship.
If what you just said, Neil, is correct, and I have no doubt that it's going to be pretty close, Longhurst is able to get away just a little bit from Scaife. We would expect to see Jones haul in Scaife.
The stopwatch tells the story on the Nissan. Richards has stabilised at about 8.5 seconds.
Well, Jones has made another second in that last lap alone. There's the time that you saw for Scaife, 53.4. Team manager Fred Gibson.
Is AJ. He'd be loving this.
Yeah, after all the pressures of...
Oh, just locks up one. That's going to let Jim close up a little bit. Locking up one going into the left-hander at Sutton's, but he picks it up nicely.
He's only 5.9 seconds behind the leader and his teammate Tony Longhurst, and he probably just added a second to that. But that's the knife edge the BMW's on. You've got to keep the thing so close to the edge of its performance all the time that one little mistake and it can really hurt. Other cars, it's possible to sometimes recover a little bit easier than this car, which relies on being wound up like a top.
Well, he won't crack it for a smile, but I think he'd be delighted at the moment. That's Frank Gardner, team manager for Tony Longhurst. Frank, like the good old days, son.
It's a long time between drinks, isn't it, Mike?
Yes, I can't remember the last victory in the touring car round here for BMW, but you've put the package together nicely. And I'll tell you what, young Tony's driving a treat here today.
Well, it's a long way to go still. If we win here, it's a bonus. I was hopeful of Lakeside next time around, but I suppose I'm like everybody else. I'm beginning to believe that the Nissans are invincible.
Dick Johnson in the pits, car number 17, change of rubber for Johnson. Led the race early and did it superbly.
Well, it was an experiment for these guys. They were running a new type of tyre, so it was a worthwhile experiment, certainly.
Well, he heads back out as Jimmy Richards heads up Bitchapave Hill.
What's the difference between him and Little Miss Muffet?
What's that, Dick?
They both got turds in their way. Well, I got Nissans.
Yes, you steamed away from the field. It looked pretty good there, but it didn't take long, I guess, for the tyres to go off.
No, and we're about almost in the same boat again.
Truly.
Yep. Well, I'll see you later, Mark. He's just sort of kind of had a bit of a...
That was Scaife.
Yeah.
He just shot off.
Yep, he's obviously got the same problem as most of the cars out here at the moment. His tyres. And the guy behind me, he's been looking after him like you wouldn't believe.
Isn't he? He's done a pretty fair job, hasn't he?
He's done a great job.
All right, mate, I'll let you concentrate. Thanks for the chat.
No worries.
And for the comedy spot.
Thanks, pal.
Last lap out. Good idea also to see the last lap board in these time 50-minute races. They head to the top of Bitchapave Hill for the final time.
Oh, it's going to be close.
It is going to be close, but Longhurst in the 25 Benson & Hedges BMW is going to break the Nissan stranglehold on this year's Australian Touring Car Championship. There's the gap. You can see it as Longhurst comes into traffic. Back of the car just a touch skatey as he came through there. Coming up on the Ashby car up on the inside. No trouble here. Oh, he holds him up just momentarily. Now picks up a gear and tries to race down to the lake corner because Richards will close in this part of the circuit. 2 corners to go. Round 6 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. David and Goliath. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be David's day here today. Last corner comes up. Round 6, and we're going to have a win for Tony Longhurst in the Benson & Hedges BMW. Second is going to be Jimmy Richards, a superb effort from position number 22 in the field. Third, Mark Scaife. So Nissan second and third.
A new brand for 1991. Congratulations, Tony Longhurst. Tony, you
Alan Jones, Frank Gardner, the entire team have worked very hard for this, and finally a breakthrough.
It's hard to believe, isn't it?
It's fabulous.
I drove a fantastic race. It was very, very difficult.
No, you didn't.
I think we should have the Nissans off the back of the grid from now on, but it's great.
And congratulations, Tony. And Mike Raymond, what's that done to the point score?
Well, let's have a look. Jimmy Richards on 110 to Mark Scapes 92, Longhurst on 66, Alan Jones on 40 and Bow on 30. Round 7 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship before an absolutely packed crowd here today. Mark Scapes has pole position with a 108.98. Starting alongside teammate Jimmy Richards in the second Nissan. From 3 it's Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. From 4, 16 Win Percy in the Holden Racing Commodore. From 5.05 Peter Brock the Mobil 1 Commodore. From 6, 18 John Bow the Shell Sierra. From 7, 17 Dick Johnson the team leader, and from 8 it's 11 Larry Perkins. From 9 Tony Longhurst last start winner. From 10 car 8 Colin Bond. Mobil 1 race cam with Peter Brock. We're ready to go racing for the Galar at Malala. Lights turn to green, and it's the 2 Nissans off the line with Mark Scapes. Jimmy Richards getting away smartly. A brilliant start from Johnny Bow as they all start rubbing fenders getting into that first turn. Glenn Seaton snuck through there while they were doing that, and Win Percy got away to a good start. So too did Peter Brock. They come through there, down past the pits, the right-hander. And the 2 Nissans already at this stage of the race starting to open the gap as they go into the right-hander here. A change of cars for Mark Scapes. He has moved into the number 2 car. The car that Jimmy Richards has been campaigning, but by crikey, I'll tell you what, has he been fast here at Malala over the last couple of days.
What about that opening corner with Percy, Bow, Seaton, Brock, all sorts of people getting stuck into that battle there. 2 Nissans disappearing into the distance, but there were locked wheels and bits of plastic flying everywhere. And emerging in 3rd place, it would be Seaton, from Percy in 4th, then Brock, then John Bow, Dick Johnson. I think Bow was the loser in that scrape.
Yes, he was caught on the wrong side of the track for the turn. But Win Percy has moved up right on the tail here of Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. Brock is the next one, followed by Bow. Then right behind him, of course, is Johnson. Tony Longhurst, the next one on the queue, then Larry Perkins.
Certainly we saw the Nissan look very strong here last year on its debut, and they're looking equally as strong here this year, but the battle behind them should be very intense. Qualifying times suggest that these guys are very evenly matched, and we should be in for a great battle.
Did you notice through the left-hander coming onto the pit straight that time, when Percy's inside front came off the ground, it actually stops. A little bit of brake bind going on there. There's a howling gale at Malala today. We had some spots of rain about 15-20 minutes ago. Our commentary point's going to blow over before the 50 minutes is up. And it'll be interesting to see whether the weather conditions have any bearing on the outcome of this race.
It's as we go to the Dunlop race cam with Dickie Johnson, and he's under siege from Tony Longhurst. This is good stuff too.
Here's a good example of what 600 horsepower can do for you with 10-inch tyres. Dick's got all the power in the world, and he is getting pasted by Tony Longhurst.
And Tony will try and stick him here on the inside as they come out, but Dick's horsepower comes into play.
This is the battle for 7th and 8th position.
That's an example of what 600 horsepower can do for you as well. If you can actually get it to the road when you're straightened up, it's quite reasonable.
Now watch this as Dick gets on the brakes. Inch by inch by inch by inch. Longhurst closes on him.
See the ground Longhurst makes under brakes there.
Now he'll give Dick a terrible time. They'll have trying to get Dick's tyres to go off and then waltz past him and go chasing the next one up on the queue.
You can hear that time as Dick was changing up through the gears, he was actually getting wheel spin in either, I don't know, it might have been 3rd or 4th. But that's how much horsepower these little cars have got. Look at Tony. I mean,
he's just having a fun time here today.
Between the Holdens is hotting up between Percy and Brock as Scapes just blazes off into the distance. Tony decides to try and go the long way. More than anything, he's trying to aggravate Dick into a mistake, and that won't be hard to do because Johnson's an experienced pro, doesn't make too many blunders.
Here he comes rushing at him again under brakes. Ducks down the inside, tries to just nibble away at the inside as they come out of the turn. All that horsepower back into play again as Johnson runs up to the right-hand sweeper. Says goodbye, Tony, just for the moment. Now you would think that Johnson is comfortably running away until he puts the brakes on again, and back comes the BMW.
Pro
approaching the 20-minute mark now of round 7 of the Shell Australia Touring Car Championship, with Mark Skaife continuing to lead the pack. Car number 2, a comfortable margin over Jim Richards, and the gap increasing all the time. He'll be feeling pretty good about himself at the moment, Mark Skaife. Also contesting the Australian Drivers' Championship this year at Eastern Creek. The shutter coming back through the front wheels on the car. I wonder whether, in fact, Mark Skaife can hear us this afternoon. Are you there, Skaife?
I can hear you, Crombo. How you going, mate? All right?
All right. Now, Richo's paid me a lot of money to talk to you for about 15 or 20 minutes to hold you up. You don't mind, do you?
I do mind, just a fraction, pal.
You're looking very good, Mark. Looking very comfortable.
Yeah, I suppose you can never disregard Richo. He never got to be one of the world's best touring car drivers and probably Australia's best by accident. So we're just going to keep our head down, drive the car smooth and see what happens.
How are your tyres shaping up at the moment?
I've chosen a fairly soft tyre, Neil, so I've just got to drive the car pretty straight. I think they should be fine, mate, over.
3 hard stops on this track. What about brakes?
Well, the brakes on our car, if you remember here last year, the brakes are very, very bad. The brakes on the car here today are fantastic, over.
All right, Mark, I know you're busy. I'm tempted to keep talking for a few minutes, but you'll get me later, so I'll let you go.
Thanks, buddy.
Bye.
Over.
Stop calling me over. Tony's done a terrific job. He's come from seemingly nowhere, and now he's starting to bother Peter Brock. I think before very long you'll find... Well, look, he goes straight up the inside. Tony Longhurst really moving in the BMW. Whammo. Mobile race cam shows the graphic action. Peter Brock that time goes back to first gear when he knew that another car was underneath him. And so now the BMW splits the 2 Holdens, and Tony sets off after Win Percy. So that's 5th position for the BMW and counting.
Larry's gone in for a fresh set of rubber. Tony, the giant killer, continues stalking Win Percy, car number 16, coming down to the entrance to the pit straight. Now Win hugging very tight through that turn. Now Longhurst getting right up behind him. Watch Longhurst close now as Win jumps on the brakes. Straight up on the inside.
The initial stopping doesn't seem to be much different, does it? But then right when you get close to the corner, the beam's outstanding. The HRT Commodore looking pretty good. I think Win's given him a signal.
Yeah, he just did then.
The second HRT car's now been built, and it's actually here in the paddock at Mallala. Here goes Longhurst up the inside. Win's given him all the room in the world. It's an easier way than having to argue over it. I think Win recognised that the BM was going to be stronger at the end of the straight. So Tony Longhurst now moves up 1 more digit to 4th.
But here he goes again, just trying to make life unbearable for Glenn Seaton, and Glenn hasn't done anything wrong at all during this race, but all of a sudden he now has to defend 3rd.
Bear in mind that BMW territory overseas is certainly the 500 and 1000k races.
Alan Jones was saying yesterday that when they get to Mount Panorama they should save themselves about 4 minutes in the race, and look at this, giving it a squeeze.
This is great stuff. Longhurst now pulls to the outside, runs out of room though. There was no way Glenn had to give him the open road, so it's a case of wind it back up again, wait for another lap, and I'll be back on even terms again.
What was going for Tony there, though, was that if he could have got round, he had the inside running for the next turn, which I'm sure was part of his thinking.
No doubt about that. And I just hope he can carry it through to Lakeside for the penultimate round of the championship. 3 weeks from today, 14th, as Tony Longhurst up on the inside. No way, says Glenn, you're going to fight a bit harder for that.
Talk to Frank Gardner or anyone around the BMW team, they will say that they're very much looking forward to Lakeside. I think they can knock the Nissans off this time.
Yeah. Oh, now it's getting tight.
Well, Percy's brought right into this battle.
Look at this, look at this. This is the David and Goliath stuff. Can he hold it on the inside? 1 wheel up on the curb. He does, and he could leave himself exposed to Percy. Look at this.
Geez, Wynn got a good run out of that corner too.
Agro City.
Seaton moves across to cover his ground.
They all went on, simultaneously went on the attack and the defence. They had to have road maps to make it down.
Yeah, they threw the cards in the air and no one knew where they were going to fall. But that was a brilliant passing move from Tony Longhurst. He set that up. But now he's left Win Percy with the problem of Glenn Seaton. And they've had a couple of touches during the season.
What we're watching, I guess, is what the creators of Group A wanted all along. There's 3 different manufacturers and 3 very different types of cars all battling, and it's great stuff.
Round the outside. Look at this. Round the outside, what a move. He's got to hold it for the next one, though.
Unbelievable.
Oh, there's fighting back.
He made the corner just a little wider for him.
I think they're closing up on to the back of Jim quite rapidly at the moment.
Scaife comes through the sweeper. Car number 2 down towards the chicane for the final time. The youngster with a ton of potential and could go on if he can display this form. Last corner coming up, round number 7 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. The checkered flag, Nissan, that's his car. And of course, Mark Scaife is across the line for a win here today. Richards in the number 1 car will take second place. Here's Jimmy. And here's the giant killer, Tony Longhurst, from well back in the pack, is going to pick up third.
Congratulations, Mark Scaife. Wonderful performance, Mark. You were disappointed at Amaroo, but you must be very pleased with this.
Yeah, thanks, Cromwell. I think it's a good birthday present for the car this weekend. If you remember, a year ago the car was fast enough but not reliable enough, and today it's been plenty good enough.
Jimmy Richards continues to lead the championship. Teammate Mark Scaife in a very solid second place. The rest of the teams, they have a lot of work to do. We're preparing for round number 8 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. What a stellar lineup today at the Lakeside course. Let's have a look through for you. Mark Scaife on pole position in the Nissan GTR. Peter Brock in the Mobile Commodore from 2. Jim Richards in the Nissan from 3. Tony Longhurst from 4 in the first of the Bimmers. Alan Jones starts out of position number 5. From 6 it's Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. Dick Johnson well back in the pack today from 7. John Bow starts out of 8. From 9 it's Larry Perkins in the second of the Mobile Commodores. Alan Grice back in action in the 16 Holden Racing Team Commodore. Well, there's your starting lineup. The big surprise, I guess, is the fact that Peter Brock, Neil Crompton, starts on the outside of the front row.
It's been a great performance from Peter and the Mobile team. They've got some new Bridgestone tyres this weekend, and it'll be very, very interesting to see whether Brock can match the pace of the Nissans. He's actually a little upset or unhappy at the moment about the position of Mark Scaife's car, I think, judging by the body language.
Yes, right on the line, not too far off the start of the penultimate round of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. The grand final, of course, at Sydney's Oran Park Raceway on the 11th of August. Green flag is up at the tail of the field. It's clear what Scaife get off the line. Racing, then they explode into life. Look at Richardson right in behind, and Johnson out of the grass. Trying to muscle his way past the BMWs. Bow goes the inside, Johnson the outside. Heading down to the carousel for the first time. You'll find it's Nissan 1-2, Brock third. Then the 2 Johnson cars, followed by the BMW. A brilliant start by Glenn Seaton, and Alan Jones pushing up here on the inside. They're off to a great start. Now they head down towards the Dunlop Bridge.
Great start again from the Nissans, as you'd expect. The four-wheel drive of both Mark Scaife and Jim Richards. Explosive off the line. The 2 Nissans heading off into the distance in terms of the gap back to the rest of the two-wheel drive brigade. Brock's tagging along a little bit, and then we've got this fascinating scrap with the 2 Shell cars and the BMW splitting them. Very, very busy at work. Third position. By far the best performance from the Mobile team in 1991. They've had their woes coming to terms with the VN Commodore this year. They've had some problems getting the appropriate setup with the car. They've now got some new tyres. They've got the new spec engine in the car this weekend. Brock's a happy chappy.
In terms of handling, Neil, how much more difficult is the Commodore to manhandle around here than the Nissans?
Well, the Commodore's probably a little bit heavier to steer. And look at the BMW, it's so nimble. I'll come back to that. Let's concentrate on this battle here, Gary, with the 2 Sierras and the BMW getting stuck right into it. John Bow. They tested up here about 3 or 4 weeks ago with some new Dunlop tyres with the Shell cars, and they tested very effectively, but they don't seem to have been able to translate the speed this weekend. Bow being attacked at the moment. Look at the BMW, it's such a strong package. Tony Longhurst underneath, using all the road, using the true assets and advantages of the car. It's great under brakes, and as soon as he saw a gap, bang, straight through, and his teammate Alan Jones is going to be right in this battle as well as they come back onto the main straight. Yes, you're right, the Commodore's probably a harder physical package to deal with over the course of 50 minutes.
Johnson sprinting in the draft of teammate John Bow at this stage. Notice Grice there, right behind him, starting to close up on the pack. This is where the real race is at the moment, with lots of cars trying to pass and repass. Once again into the carousel. Bow, Johnson, up on the inside of Johnson comes AJ.
This is the battle for 5th. Bow 5th, Johnson 6th, Jones 7th, Seaton 8th, then Perkins and Grice. Out front, we've got Scaife from Richards, Brock in third position, and Tony Longhurst having a lonely run as we look at Dunlop race cam, and there goes Alan Jones underneath, and that's the gap that he's been looking for.
Here's the scrap for third, Peter Perfect, 05 Mobile Commodore, and right behind him the aggressive Tony Longhurst stalking after the two Nissans as they come down the front straight. And the bloke in the little yellow B&H 25 is going to keep Brocky busy. Izzy Watt straight down under brakes. Now Brocky will try and snitch him again on the inside. No chance on the exit of the turn because Longhurst is out right on the ripple. He is now advanced into third.
It's cost him plenty in tyre wear though now.
Yeah, he nipped up the front right a little bit just heading in there as we take the speed cam shot. Interestingly, the gap from these two guys back to Alan Jones in the second B&H BMW is 9.6 seconds, and I think you'll find in the coming 5 to 10 laps that gap shrinks dramatically and Peter Brock will come under threat from the other BM. Cars 16 and 17, Alan Grice and Dick Johnson, they were battling for 7th and 8th positions, as Gary mentioned a few minutes ago, and they've got all out of shape and disappeared off into the carousel, and a lot of steam coming out from under the bonnet of the Johnson car. Let's take a look at a replay and see whether we can get an idea of what happened here. Oh, Grice making contact with the left rear of Johnson's car and enough to spin him around. Well, that just leaves John Bowe now to fly the shell flag in this battle, and haven't the cars evaporated out of that scrap now?
We certainly have Bowe trying to contain Glenn Seaton. The two of them have been together for, what about the last 6 or 7 laps? Seaton was involved with challenging Johnson at the same time. So the title of the hot running Ford man. Oh, Bowie's gone. There she is, the full 360 right across the racetrack. They're able to miss Larry Perkins, who came through. And what's the gap back to Longhurst?
3.5 seconds on the last lap. I'll recheck it for you. 3.09. He's made half a second in the last lap, so that tells the story. The Nissans are out to low 54s, high 53s, and the BMW's still doing 53.5. Well, but that might also not work in Tony Longhurst's favour at the end of the day, because he might literally run out of rubber, and it's not that cool. I know it's cool in various parts of Australia at the moment. We've got a 20-degree day here at Lakeside, and that'll be giving the tyres some hard work.
Dick Johnson back into the pits, but I believe has put it behind the wall. Let's go down to our man in the pits, Mark O'Sullivan. What's the latest, Mark?
Like the story in the pits is we expected Johnson to come in for a stop for tyres. He just drove straight past his pit bay and put the car back in the garage. The reason was the radiator was damaged in that collision with Grice, so another DNF for the Johnson team.
And the last time through, Scaife's lap was a 54.42, so they're actually losing more speed, where the BMW is maintaining its speed in the high 53s.
Well, Jim Richards, ham in the sandwich here, has got a real dilemma on his hands. He really wants to get past his teammate, and
look at this.
to do so.
There he goes, Richards straight through on the inside of Scaife and hangs him out to dry just a little. But then again, it's time for the attack of the 25 B&H.
No problem with Scaife's car.
Yep.
He left a lot of room through Hungary Corner, which surprised me, and I thought at the time that was a little strange because there are no team orders between the two Nissan drivers, so Scaife with a problem. That would account for the reason why he suddenly lost the ground that he'd made on Richards early in the event. So it becomes a 2-horse race at the front of the pack, and Longhurst is on the charge. Let's go down to the pits and see what's happening here with Fred Gibson and the team. Mark O'Sullivan down there, what can you see?
Well, Mark Scaife in some sort of tyre trouble. They're changing all 4 tyres. I was talking to Fred Gibson earlier in the day. They're running the same compound they ran here in round 4 in April, but the pace is up about half a second, so maybe this is just taking the toll on these tyres.
Well, a pretty quick stop just the same.
Mark had a spin, which many people may have seen on 7 National News last night, and damaged the tyres. As many viewers would be aware, the touring car teams have to choose the 4 tyres that they want to both qualify on and race on, and it's 4 tyres that are marked and then you're stuck with. Oh, look at Longhurst here. He's in position for a pounce, goes round the outside, an amazing manoeuvre from Longhurst, and he takes the lead of round 8. Fabulous bit of driving from Longhurst.
Good brave stuff around the outside. Crowd really appreciated that move from their local boy, Tony Longhurst.
Richards to the pits, is it? Yes, Richards in. Run out of rubber.
Unbelievable.
And look, he's signalling to the pits. What's all that about?
I'll be in next lap probably.
He was signalling that time for sure. And are they all playing pit stop games?
Oh.
And off goes one of the Shell Sierras yet again. And it's got to be John Bower, because we know that Johnson's in the pits. That's the second time round for John today. It's been a tough weekend for the Shell team.
The car we spotted in the pits as Jim Richards went in was Peter Brock in 0.5. He's back out again in 9th place, and Jim Richards rejoined the race in 11th place.
I've got Longhurst leading Jones by 11.6 seconds at last count, and then Mark Scaife in 3rd, followed by Jim Richards. In 5th place we have Glenn Seaton. Behind him in 6th it's Colin Bond. 7th is Peter Brock, and behind Brocky it's Alan Grice in car number 16.
We go with Nissan race cam into the cockpit of Mark Scaife's GTR, and he's got some problem with the rev counter.
The car sounds and looks all right, but maybe we'll have a look at his lap time next time through and see what's happening.
Got a throttle problem, so he's communicated to his pit. He's got it full on. I think that's the problem.
Still putting in a quite... yes, there's the wave from Mark, and Jim goes through. He's still putting in useful lap times given the state of the engine, and Richo just acknowledges Mark's courtesy. That'll be a bit of disappointment for Mark Scaife, who's really been the pace here all week.
Frank Gary Wilkinson, what's the big difference for you between this meeting and the last one here at Lakeside?
About 400 test laps.
Hard work.
Yeah, lots of hard work. You get very lucky then.
Well, they say you make your own luck in racing, Frank. I hope it all pans out for you and you come up with that 1-2.
Be very nice, yeah, it'd be a real bonus. Thank you very much.
Tony lines it up for the checkered flag.
Coming out of the last corner, a great 1-2 here at Lakeside today for Team BMW. The Nissans back to 3rd and 4th, and Longhurst, the Queenslander, takes victory on home terrain. Second spot, of course, will go to Alan Jones, teammate in car number 20, the second of the Bimmers. 3rd goes to Jimmy Richards, 4th to Mark Scaife, and 5th to Glenn Seaton.
Great performance from Tony Longhurst. A 1-2 for the team. You must be ecstatic.
No, just over the moon, Neil. It's been a very big day for me in more ways than one.
Tony, where to from here?
Oran Park. Naturally, we're very happy with our result here, but we're going to work hard on the cars, and perhaps we can knock the Nissans off at Oran Park in 3 weeks' time.
Well, the series is basically resolved. Jim Richards is champion for year 1991, but boy, do we have a race here today. Mark Scaife, the second Nissan team driver, has pole position, but the man who will split the Nissan duo is Peter Brock in the mobile Commodore. As I said to you, Mark Scaife has pole position of 1:10.60. Absolutely stunning qualifying effort from Peter Brock. He'll share the front row. From 3, it's the national champion Jim Richards in the Nissan. From 4, John Bower in the first of the Shell Sierras. From 5:25, Tony Longhurst, the Benson and Hedges BMW. From 6:11, Larry Perkins, the mobile Commodore. From 7:20, Alan Jones, the second of the Bimmers. From 8, number 30, Glenn Seaton, the Peter Jackson Sierra. From 9:4, Mark Gibbs, the GIO Nissan. From 10, long way back, 16, Win Percy, the Holden Racing Team Commodore. Colin Bond starts out of position number 11. Dick Johnson out of position number 12. Steve Reed from 13. From 14, it's Terry Finnegan in the Commodore. 15, Peter Dillman in the BMW. From position number 16, John Cotter. 17, it's John Vernon. From 18, David Thomas in the Corolla. From 19, Dennis Rogers. And from 20, Mike Conway. Just about set for the start. Mark Scaife and Brocky head-to-head in the grand final at Oran Park Raceway. And we're about 3 seconds away from the start. Beautiful start. Scaife out, gone. Right alongside of him goes Jimmy Richards, who catches Brock. John Bower makes a good start down the outside, and Mark Gibbs also away quickly in the GIO Nissan. But as they come down into the first turn, you'll notice it's John Bower, Smitherman, Brocky under brakes, right behind Jimmy Richards, fighting his way past Glenn Seaton and the Peter Jackson Sierra. Good start from Larry Perkins and the number 11 mobile Commodore, and they head down to the right-hander.
Terrific start, as you'd expect from Mark Scaife and the Nissan. John Bower came out very quickly, though, and I was a bit surprised that Peter Brock sat there for a while. Action back in the pack as they sort themselves out. There's Perkins, Win Percy, both the BMWs. And you can expect the BMWs to come on strong as this race unfolds, judging by the way they performed in qualifying yesterday.
In fact, if anyone went backwards in that first couple of corners, it was probably Mark Gibbs. He got off to a brilliant start, but he's been gobbled up by the field. Brocky sat there in absolute wheel spin at the starting line, but he's closed up right behind Jimmy Richards as Scaife disappears downhill. Here's Richards coming down on the inside of John Bow. Bow is caught one out and one back, and Brock noses the Commodore down the inside as we take mobile race cam, and here's Brocky. And swinging to the inside goes John Bow as they work away at Richards and the number 1 Nissan down to the left-hander. Mark Scaife getting away as Richards lines up Bow. Can't do it. Beautiful pictures from our mobile race cam into the left-hander.
Peter Brock putting a lot of pressure on Jim Richards, and Richards has looked down the inside of Bow. Bow's putting on a great show here, but as we've seen before, 10 laps in the Sierra at this sort of pace is just about enough for the rear tyres. So hopefully Bow can keep it up as long as he can. Glenn Seaton slotting in there behind Brock as well. First 9 cars covered by less than a second in qualifying, so we should be in for a good show for the first few laps at least.
A year where we came to Oran Park 12 months ago, we had 4 drivers in the running for the championship going to the wire. Today the championship resolved. That's already gone to Jimmy Richards thanks to the race at Lakeside. But look at this action with Johnny Bow doing a good job for the Shell racing team, Dick Johnson's team, trying to fend off Jimmy Richards. Richards all over him, and Bow is doing a bit of defensive stuff, trying to do the right thing. Brocky coming down right on the tail of Jimmy Richards, under brakes. Mobile race cam tells the story. The exit to the turn. Richards trying to get himself down the inside of Johnny Bow. Bow almost scrapes the tail of the car on the wall as they finish one more lap.
Brocky inside this time, and I'm surprised that Jim's not able to maintain that gap down the straight. Oh, someone out in the dirt in a big way.
I don't know whether let's swing round and see who we've got.
Oh,
it's Win Percy. Blimey, Charlie.
Front left of the car looked pretty knocked around then.
Thanks, Wet.
Bow was saying he reckons the Sierra is just about up to its use-by date. 5 years in international competition, and things aren't getting any faster, so he's having to work very, very hard here. See the car sliding all over the track. Brock has a look down the inside, more than a look. He's taken him, thank you, John. And Brock's away, and Richards has a look up the inside as well. Look at Bow get the hammer down. The Sierra is still a very quick thing in a straight line. Richards pulls out wide and have a look, but he's not going to get him here.
The dust still there from the Percy runoff, and they'd all be skating a bit there on the rubble as they make it into the left-hander beneath the Yokohama Bridge. Glenn Seaton doing a good job. He's up fairly close to them in the Peter Jackson Sierra.
Look at Richards having a look down the outside of Bow. He moves across. There's a bit of panel crunching going on there. Nothing in between it. Richards gets it back onto the island. Bow still maintains his position. Seaton tucks onto the back of Richards. There's Percy into the pits. Tyre change.
It's up the front where you will need to see what's happening because it's been pretty belted around, I think.
Mandatory tyre change there. And Richards down the inside of Bow.
Yeah, that was a nice clean pass from Jimmy Richards' car. Not too good. There's one that's even worse. Colin Bond's Caltech Sierra. It's almost a repeat of last year.
Brock skating through the left-hander down at Goodyear. Now the two of them run side by side. Mobile race cam shows us the action. There's Richo on the inside. Brock grabs top gear right at the bottom. Jim's in position. And oh, look at all that glass and garbage down there.
Oran Park drag race falls Nissan's way.
In the meantime, the number 2 Nissan GTR, Mark Scaife, the man that just about everyone was tipping in the closing rounds of the championship to become title holder for 91. But unfortunately, his luck went a little sour. Richards came on at Lakeside, and that basically locked up the title for Jimmy Richards going into today's grand final.
Oh, and Jim Richards in trouble.
So the number 1 car, the national champ Jim Richards, has pulled off, I think, on the entrance there to the short track.
Fred Gibson showing a bit of concern. Why not? Bit of smoke pouring from under the bonnet of the Nissan. Richards out of the car.
Oh, some locking up of brakes from John Bow. He almost goes straight ahead and does.
I think he, in fact, had a deflating right front that time.
So that might well see Bow to the pits for a tyre change. Glenn Seaton is able to hose off Alan Jones down the straight. But from this point of the track, well, they all start to work under brakes. Watch Alan Jones close up on Glenn Seaton. Out of action, stepping out of the car is John Bow.
who has had an awful day. Thanks, John. Things will get better.
I don't know that my call was right there. I said there might have been a problem with the tyre. I think it's more like an under-bonnet problem for the JB car.
We take mobile race cameras down the inside and see you late, Pete.
Been watching Brock's mobile Commodore the last few laps. There seems to be puffs of smoke trailing from the rear corner of the car, so he may have a problem there. But either way, there's no way he would have held that Alan Jones around here in a BMW M3. They're dynamite on this circuit.
There's Mark Scaife getting through there. And this is Longhurst trying to close that gap all the time to Mark Scaife. Johnson gives him racing room. And Richards, of course, parked by the road here today.
Well, both Scaife and Longhurst in.
Surprise, surprise. And they're only paying attention to one corner, so maybe a deflating tyre there. A bit of bad luck. He might probably picked up a bit of the debris on the track. The track's certainly dirty today. That looks like all it was. And if you look under the car, he maybe had an excursion off the track. But that'll drop him way down the order.
Maybe the one that got away, Frank.
Actually, Gibbs is surprisingly slow compared to the two Works cars. I thought he might have been a bit closer, in all honesty, this weekend to Richards and Scaife, but I guess it'll take a bit of time to get used to the car.
It's a good move as he gets past Brocky. Mark Scaife comes down through the gears. Crowd giving him a tremendous cheer as he exits Goodyear turn. Checkered flag at the ready. The 91 Shell Australian Touring Car Championship Grand Final goes to Mark Scaife. Nose to tail as they come diving down the hill for the final time. The battle for second and third. Last corner, and it's going to be Alan Jones to pick up second here today. Tony Longhurst will take third, and Glenn Seaton will round off the four in the Peter Jackson Ford Sierra. I think Tom Smith from the Shell Company are ready to put the championship sash around you.
Jim. A special thanks again to Fred and the boys and Mark for doing such a great job in the testing of the car early in the week. Thank you.
Wasn't it great to see some of those long-gone venues like Sydney's Amaroo Park and Oran Park too? Now it's time to move on to the 92 Championship. And in most people's memories, it was a continuation of the Nissan GT-R domination. However, that wasn't really the case. Sure, Nissan won its third championship in as many years, but it wasn't all one-way traffic, with the Ford Sierra and BMW M3 also scoring plenty of wins. The humble VN also got in on the action at an unlikely venue, the tight and twisty Amaroo Park, in the hands of the great man Peter Brock. Look also for cameos from Holden Racing Team's Thomas Mazzera, although Thomas got in more strife than the early settlers in his occasional outings, and a whole fleet of VNs from the privateers. If the makes and models stayed the same from 91 into 1992, well, there was a whole raft of rule changes to even up the competition. And there was also a format change, a move from a single 50-minute race to 2 heat victories, and before that, on race morning, the Dash for Cash, what ultimately became known as Chook Lotto. Brock's great rival Alan Moffat also figured prominently in 92, not behind the wheel, but rather behind the microphone. He's not shy in offering a comment or two and a strong opinion. Anyway, sit back, enjoy the 1992 Australian Touring Car Championship. It's worth a look.
In season season 91, it was a case of by how far for the amazing GTR. Nissan's twin-turbo four-wheel drive rocket ship swamped the opposition to win both the Shell Touring Car title and the Tooheys 1000 at Bathurst. In a bid to even up the equation this year, Cam's handicappers have added 40 kilos to the Nissan and restricted power output to 450 horses by way of a turbo pop-off valve. By comparison, Holden is straight from Jenny Craig, 100 kilos lighter than the Tokyo Express, but likely to feel the pinch due to its 7,500 RPM rev limiter. BMW's durable M3 will do it tough after being shackled with a 60-kilo weight penalty. By Bavarian standards, the Bimmer may be considered obese, though it is rev-free, so put in the earplugs. Ford's European Sierra is unlikely to be affected by tipping the scales at 1,150 kilos or its 7,500 RPM limiter, but it is early days yet. So have the handicappers got it right first up in a bid to produce closer and more entertaining racing in season 92? We'll soon know as 7 Sport welcomes you to Sydney's Amaroo Park Raceway for round 1 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Proudly brought to you by Shell.
Good afternoon, Australia. I'm Mike Raymond. Welcome to the commencement of another year of fabulous motorsport here with 7 Sport. Today we're at Amaroo Park Raceway for round 1 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship, and there's been plenty of action on the track as I welcome my co-anchor for season 92, former national champion Bathurst winner Alan Moffat. Alan, we've spoken about the cars, but also the format has caused a few problems today for those who thought they'd be on pole.
Yes, well, with the new qualifying dash on Sunday morning, which we've never had before, normally Saturday afternoon takes pole position, but last night John Bowe went home with his Shell Sierra on pole, and after the 3-lap race today, he landed up 5th, so he's not too happy. By converse, Peter Brock was 5th on the grid last night, and he came 2nd in the race this morning, just behind Jim Richards, and lands up on the first row.
Here's the last lap of what we saw this morning, the Dash for Cash, the Peter Jackson event. And as you can see, Jimmy Richards was leading. Peter Brock was right on his tail. They come to the exit of Honda Corner, and a big move here down the outside from Peter Brock as he comes storming down to put the pressure well and truly on Jimmy Richards. Just couldn't pull it. And Jimmy Richards, of course, went on to win the 3-lap trophy dash this morning here at Amaroo Park Raceway. And that, of course, has changed the grid positions here today.
The 3-lap race is really a little bit of a lottery because we draw for our positions, as you know. So if you're lucky enough to get on the front row, it gives you a pretty good start on the other guys.
You started out of 2 there, 1 for the first heat. It must be a big advantage.
Yes, it is, but it's probably really the second heat that counts the most because that's when our tyres will be really looking not too good.
Well done, Jimmy Richards. He has pole position in the Winfield Nissan. Out of 2 is 0.5 Peter Brock, the big achiever in that field. From 3, it's car number 2, Mark Scaife in the second of the Nissans. From 4, 35, Wayne Park in the Peter Jackson Sierra. From 5, car number 18, John Bowe, the first of the Shell Sierras. From 6, number 3, Trevor Ashby, the Commodore. From 7, car number 4, Mark Gibbs, the GIO Nissan GTR. From 8, it's car number 30, Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. 9, a long way back, 25, Tony Longhurst, the B&H BMW. And rounding out the top 10, car number 17, Dickie Johnson. Racing. Brocky off the line, but look at the four-wheel drive advantage as he tries to cross to the inside. A block out the challenge. Wayne Park gets away beautifully on the outside as they come roaring up to the top of Itchapave. The 2 Nissans side by side over the top and down into the Dunlop loop, and it is Peter Brock who will lead it from Wayne Park. Oh, Glenn Seaton very much sideway on the exit. There's Dick Johnson muscled in there. The GIO Nissan well back in the pack as Brocky stretches him coming down the back straight for the first time. Looks like Glenn Seaton in car number 30, the second of the Peter Jackson cars, getting by Wayne Park as he now picks up 2nd. Park drops back to 3rd. We take the car number 30 off the start to show you how the 2 Nissans lag down. Glenn Seaton able to get up on the outside. You see the 2 Nissans across to the right as he catches 1, moves up here on the inside of Jimmy Richards.
Here's Dick Johnson having a go at Trevor Ashby. Not going to like this one, doing everything. Oh, Dick very gentlemanly there, I must say. Ashby a real handful around here, but there he's through, and he was definitely being held up by that Commodore.
That was a good move, and it was caught by our race cam. Look at this, a BMW.
Those were the BMWs that weren't going to go very well, Mike, but they seem to be up there fairly quickly already.
Glenn Seaton, the Peter Jackson Sierra, as he hones in behind the tail of the 05 Peter Brock Mobile Commodore. They come down the hill And Seaton has been clawing away at Peter Brock's lead lap after lap as we take our race cam. Setting up on top of car number 30 on the approach now to the late corner. Brock on the brakes.
Well, there's no doubt that we've got a good set of tyres on both of these cars. Bridgestone covering both Peter Brock and Glenn Seaton. They've obviously got a batch that's working well here today.
Now the whole idea is to try and just keep this tight on the exit to this turn. Keep it very tight because here comes Jim down the inside. Side by side, and Richards. In the Winfield Nissan, Johnson comes down, but he's got to get back behind him because he's going to have Mark Scaife up the inside as well.
Once Mark Scaife in the number 2 car, that's Richards hammering around the back of Johnson there.
Yes, I must apologise, I got the cars wrong there. It was Mark.
Well, a lot of red cars, hard to follow there, Michael.
No, I got it wrong all day,
actually. That time, but
Glenn Seaton is going after Peter Brock in the biggest possible way as they come down the back part of the course. The last lap board is out.
2 big braking areas here. This one at the end, at the bottom of this hill, and then again at the lake corner. The Sierra a little bit lighter, might be able to take advantage, but looking
a bit too far back.
A little bit too far.
Yeah. Now, coming up to the short straight, there's no room. A few lap cars. Checkered flag at the ready.
Great
New
drive.
Regulations, and Peter Brock takes heat number 1 of round 1 of the Shell Touring Car Nationals at Amaroo Park. Second place will go to the Peter Jackson teamster, Glenn Seaton, and Mark Scaife will finish 3rd. Jim Richards 4th, Dick Johnson 5th, and 6th place will go to John Bow in car number 18. So Peter Brock and Alan, it has been declared a wet race, so everyone is on wet weather rubber.
That's fresh ones, of course.
So 10 seconds away from the start. The weather has cleared. You could have a dry line here and some pit stops. The tension, the action ready to come from Amaroo Park. Heat number 2. And off the line goes the Nissan, out and gone the pair of them. There goes the 3rd Nissan up on the inside. No advantage with 4-wheel drive, they say. Don't you believe it? And the rest of them are just straggling up the hill now, trying to get traction off the line. Over the top and down into the loop.
Well, that was a reversal of the first heat where Brock got an immaculate start. I think he definitely fumbled the clutch on that one. Didn't want to get too much wheel spin. Took it a little bit easy, but the 4-wheel drive just leapt off the 2nd and 3rd row of the grids.
Couldn't get better indication of the performance than that. Mark Gibbs starting from 8th position on the grid. He was 3rd through the first corner. These things have got some traction, all right. And the wet conditions, we haven't seen the GTRs run in the wet yet. This is the first time, and they are quick.
I tell you what, 60 kilos of difference to the BMWs. Have a look at them running down. They're just powering down the outside. I would say they've probably gone for the softest wet weather tyre. And there's a bump going on with John Bower. I tell you what, that's Alan Jones. They've had a battle of words going for a while.
That's Tony Longhurst.
No, it's Jones behind.
Well, there's Jones coming up beside him now, so there could be a bit of a... Here we go. Jones will look down the inside.
Well, the rain is a great equalizer, Michael. It brings everybody into gear. The drivers have still got to be extremely brave, and they've got to be extremely delicate and very careful with what they're doing.
Jones down the inside.
Obviously, they're feeling no pain whatsoever. Either Tony Longhurst got a little wide there. Wow. He was lucky. Up on the nature strip there, or if you want to call it a nature strip, definitely slippery when you get those tires on those curves.
So the BMW is a new lease of life, as Alan said. Rain is the great equaliser. These little bimmers with their 60 kilos, not showing any sort of restriction in the wet weather conditions. Brocky still hanging in 4th position behind the 3 GTRs. Mark Gibbs there in 3rd.
Okay, we'll have a look at them across the line. It's Mark Scaife, the leader from Jimmy Richards. Mark Gibbs runs 3rd on the road. As we look at the replay off the starting line with Glenn Seaton, just look at the acceleration of those 3 GTRs. There's Brock. Johnny Bow moves up quickly.
Well, they talk about slingshots, Mike, and boy, if that wasn't one, you'll never see one. Just tremendous. And if there was ever a vote for 4-wheel drive on the road, ladies and gentlemen, this is what you're looking at. This is where the technical excellence comes into their own, and that's why you would have it if every manufacturer was prepared to spend the money doing it. It'll be much more comfortable for Brocky at the moment. He's got a heavier car, 1,300 kilos against the 1,040 kilos, but here's the first go, a little stab. No, Tony not going to do it. He did do it.
Brock had a ton of understeer coming out of there.
See, just that millisecond that he hesitated and the BMW was through. So much for power to weight ratios that everybody's been bandying around all weekend. The violins have been playing here like a 45-piece Philharmonic orchestra. But we're now seeing touring car racing 1992. Forget the four-wheel drive cars. It's a lay-down misère for them. But the way in which the two BMWs leapt forward is an indication. Normally aspirated engine, a little easier to control. And there, the third BMW passing a Sierra like he was standing still.
That was Paul Morris, who's also running for the Frank Gardner, Tony Longhurst team. And you saw what he did. I tell you what, all the, I guess, the whinging about the extra 60 kilos, put him on a wet track. I tell you what, doesn't that even up the equation? Yes.
Bondi, of course, living in Sydney, Mike, would know the way he would like to have his car set up, and I think is harassing the two cars in front of him quite efficiently, just looking for a slight opportunity to get by under brakes. It might be a touch here. Close.
I've got the feeling Morris is going to gain handsomely out of this. These three are having a huge scrap. Seek doesn't want to give way under brakes. He's on the brakes early. Naturally, Bond's car is loose in the tail end.
Paul Morris gets squeezed out.
Bondi's, something's back. He's had it. Engine's gone. Missed a gear change or something. He's out of the equation there now.
Aggressive stuff from Paul Morris. All the GTR boys have been complaining this year with the reduction in horsepower, how it's affected the handling of the car. It seems to be understeering quite heavily now.
There he goes.
Tony says thanks very much.
And there's not much Mark can do except try and out-accelerate him, and Tony's got to run with him on the inside unless Mark gets across there, which he can't do. Now, you'll find that Longhurst will get through. He'll shorten up the turn to make sure he can't get back on the inside.
Now, these two guys are only 4 seconds behind the leading Freddie Gibson cars, Scaife and Richards. So the field is gradually bunching up, and I guess if the track does start to dry out, Alan, the BMW on wet weather tyres would have the advantage, would it?
Well, being the lightest car, it should deteriorate the least. Now's the time for the fellows to start drifting around on the wet part of the track, keeping the tyres cool and making sure that they don't chunk out. But we're not at desperate stage yet.
Here's Paul Morris making a move down on the outside of Glenn Seaton. Seaton came up to 4th. Morris making a big lunge down the outside. Seaton will probably outbrake him going into this corner and keep him to the outside. Oh, he came straight across, so that was for Glenn.
Again, the turbo lag coming in. That's the worst corner on the track for a Sierra. Down to the very lowest gear, and the turbo down to very few RPM.
And that advantage has been pushed home now by Mark Gibbs in the 3rd GTR, who's been able to get around the outside again of Tony Longhurst.
We've just had word from the pits that there he is, car 25. Longhurst has been pinged for noise infringements as well.
Well, we've got an abnormal situation here. When I say abnormal, the authorities don't. Where we live in an echo chamber here, and the noise attacks these people. They pass one day, then they're noisy the next. It's very, very hard.
The cloud covers come over, and because our car revs so hard, the induction noise has obviously brought the decibels up. They put the flag out, so I dropped 1,000 revs and started to use the higher gears, but they continued to hold the flag out. So I think that's pretty bad.
Coming up to the last corner now as they swing on the way to the checkered flag, and it's about to come up. A 1-2 for the Winfield Nissan team across the line. Mark Scaife taking the heat win, 2nd going to Jim Richards, and 3rd, a remarkable 3rd, to the GIO Nissan GTR of Mark Gibbs of Sydney. Welcome to Sandown and round 2 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. And let me tell you, there's been a tremendous build-up to today's big race here at Sandown. A huge crowd in attendance, participating with the grid walk to meet the top riders and the top drivers that we'll be seeing here in action today.
Dick Johnson off pole position in the Shell Sierra. Out of position 2, we'll have Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. Out of position 3, his teammate Wayne Park in the 2nd of the Sierras. Jim Richards in the 1st of the GTRs out of position 4, with his teammate Mark Scaife out of position 5.
And the Sierra's looking good at Sandown. Off to the start, the 2 Nissans just light up the racetrack, and they are long gone down into turn number 1. The Sierra sat there buzzing wheels, trying to get off the mark. They couldn't do it. The 2 Nissans, hard to get all that power through those fairly narrow tyres, Alan.
Sierras. Admittedly, the GTRs also have the turbo problem, but with the traction of the four-wheel drive, it just absolutely slingshots them from any position they're in.
Look at this, up on the outside, we're talking about horsepower, and that's how quick the Sierras have been here since Friday at Sandown, as Johnson, with a huge cheer coming up for the crowd, sits in behind Jimmy Richards. And there's our Dunlop race cam as we come up to the inside.
Make no mistake, this Turbo Ford is still a pretty fast car, and certainly in Dick Johnson's hands, a very effective tool around Sandown.
Great shot.
As Alan said earlier in the day, Dick really loves this circuit.
Well, here they come, past the start-finishing line for the first time, and Johnson, sitting in the draft of Jim Richards, pulls to the outside, and there he goes. But Richards comes back under brakes. Crowd got a huge thrill out of that. Johnson tacks in behind the Winfield Nissan. Great shots here from our Dunlop race cam. And John Bow, in the second of the Dick Johnson cars, has made a brilliant start, keeping in mind John was the fastest man here yesterday. Car packed up this morning in the 3-lap Trophy Dash, blew an engine. They've repaired an engine in just over an hour.
No, they're doing well. I would have surprised that Dick didn't get Jim at the end of that straight. He was looking in a very good position, but the brakes on the GTR are superb, and Jim was able to hold him off. This is a tricky part of the circuit, very tricky, whistling down through the S's. A tight left-hander here, no chance for any passing in this position, but John Bow has already replaced Dick as a challenge to Jim Richards.
Here he comes, down the outside as we take the Nissan race cam, and Jimmy Richards will now try and come back under brakes, but John had that sussed out fairly well. He took him early in the straight, didn't wait to the last moment, so John Bow of Tasmania leads heat number 1 today, round 2 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Richards runs in second. Next is Dick Johnson and Mark Scaife in 4th place.
Bow's the only guy running in the 15s at the moment, and he's certainly opening up the lead. There's the HRT Commodore. We won't see a lot of this car this year. I think they're only scheduled to run 3 rounds, but...
Pity they're not really running the entire Touring Car Championship. It is Holden's flagship, and hand-picking 3 of 8 or 9 races.
Not a big effort, really, is it? Any privateer
well, I don't
could do
think
that.
so,
Yeah.
particularly when you want some of the rules changed. But Thomas doing a good job. Not complaining about Thomas. He's out there driving when he's allowed to drive or when they have enough budget. But I would have thought a Holden Racing Team Enterprise controlled it by a Scott.
Well, you know where they like to keep their money.
Yeah, I think Tom does. I think Tom should get the message about touring cars in Australia.
All right, he just slammed her down from 6th down to 5th through the S's into 4th.
Down to second, I am.
Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon. You're going to have to give me a ride here to refresh my memory. Okay, up to 3rd. Do it yourself, Mitt. You can talk your way through. You don't need me.
Yeah, really. There's oil everywhere here, pal.
Uh-huh. Easy here on the left-hander. You had a little nudge here this morning in the trophy dash. Here we go. Nasty onto the straight. It's bumpy over the causeway.
Dick, this looks pretty good. Bowie's taken off like a scalded cat.
He must have my engine.
He must have. Someone's pulled a crook change on you this morning. He's opened up to about 6.5.
Yeah, I know. That's the gun engine I think they had for me for Simmons.
That's the one with the 8,500 RPM rev limiter on, is it?
Obviously.
It's good to see him come in for a win. He's really had pole position for the last 2 races, but he comes off the pit turn. Checkered flag time for John Bow of Tasmania. He's going to do it very comfortably indeed. A 9-second break over team leader Dick Johnson in the number 17 car. 3rd place will go to Mark Scaife in the Nissan GTR. 4th to Jimmy Richards. And 5th will go to Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Ford Sierra. About 10 seconds away. Heat number 2 of round 2, the Shell Australian Touring Car Nationals from Sandown Raceway. And John Bow, I think, has got a problem with his car. Hand came out, but he's ready to go. He gets off slowly, and as expected, Richards goes straight down the outside. The problem was, though, that Mark Scaife missed the kick and was gobbled up by a whole fleet of Commodores as they go to the bottom corner.
Tell you what, the 2 Shell cars put a sandwich on the front of Mark Scaife there. Closed the door very effectively as he tried to leap off the line, but his teammate Richards just did the rocket up the outside, and he leads them round for the first lap. Tremendous start once again from the Nissan GTRs.
Jim knows what it's like to get up that inside line, and he knows he wants to be onto the back straight first, and he doesn't want anything but fresh air in front of him. But here, already challenged by John Bow.
Here comes Bowie up the outside, car number 18.
Gee, there's
watch him try and get across very quickly to the left side of the road so he doesn't leave the gap open. No, he's able to hold it, and Dick Johnson of Queensland pulls it up into the 3rd spot. So it's fairly close. Thomas Mazira didn't get away to the best of start, and that looked like Peter Brock, who got away very well indeed. Skate back in position number 6.
Okay, as we come up onto the right-left, going into the main straight. A challenge under brakes by Johnson. Having a go at Jim. John Bow's already well clear.
Isn't this great stuff as we take our Nissan race cam?
And right behind Dick should be Mark Gibbs. I think I saw him there before we changed shots. He's not there. So Jim's left a little bit of a gap on the GIO car as they break at the end of the straight. But Mark Gibbs is right up there too. A new lease of life for the GIO car. And Peter Brock in 05. You can't keep him down. Mind you, this is the 2nd heat. These tyres have already done the 20 laps in the 1st heat. So they'll be conscious of trying to conserve and stretch as much out of this rubber as they possibly can while still getting on with a hectic race.
Well, certainly Mark Gibbs is giving the GIO machine a good run. He's right in the slipstream behind the sister cars. This is a customer car built by Fred Gibson for Bob Forbes Corporation. And GIO, along with Windscreens O'Brien, have put a very nice team together here and running well in this 2nd heat.
And look at the little bimmer. This thing will get quicker.
Oh, hear the brakes lock.
Yes, he's got to be a little bit careful doing that to Peter Brock.
Seaton to 10, with a lot of work still to do. It gives you an idea of the fairly tight and twisting layout here at Sandown, particularly around the top end of the circuit.
Seeing plenty of brake lock-ups there. We won't want too much of that. These tires on their last legs, they've done the 20 laps in the 1st heat, and certainly flat spotting them under brakes not going to augur well for the last 5 or 6 laps.
Glenn Seaton has a look down the inside of Thomas Mazira. Look at Thomas.
Locked it up.
He's out of control.
And protecting the corner. You see, he unbalanced himself, slammed on the brakes, and...
and Wayne Park or Glenn Seaton may have been in the aftermath of all that.
Nasty one. That's life in the fast lane. That was definitely Thomas getting a little bit edgy, tried to protect the corner.
Yep, he was very, very late on the brakes too, from what I saw.
And unsettled the car, locked up the rear, and he was wise to let it go. But that Armco was quite close to the circuit there in the S's. Here we go again.
Have a look at this on the replay. Thomas has already gone. He's off to Gowings here. And it starts to use all of the racetrack. It's headed onto the grass. There's guardrail coming up. But Seaton has gone through and just got the car tally, or there may have even been some oil there.
Possible.
Have a look, because he was sideways just about the same time as Thomas.
Now, if you look at here, Thomas is really hard on the brakes, and that's when the car gets out of shape, and that's when he loses it. He's just a little bit out of shape there. He's offline.
He just waited a bit too long and ran out of ground.
And it's getting hot at the front of the field. They're over half distance now, with Dick Johnson running in the 2nd spot and Jimmy Richards closing all the time as we take the Nissan race cam down to the left-hander.
Yes, you can see the acceleration off that left-hander. The 4-wheel drive cars just leap out of the tight corners. Dick starting to lose it. He got a little bit tight there. Touch. You can't blame Jim for that. Dick had the same problem that Thomas Mazira just had. Just locked her up a bit under brakes and had to give way. That's the tires going off on him. Now your horsepower taking over, ramrodding it up the back straight, and he said, I'll have a go. If he's got enough time, yes, he can come across.
Got to get across the inside.
You know one thing for sure, Jim Richards will never hit anybody in a corner like that. He might give you a little tap in a slow corner like we just experienced, but not a high-speed corner like that at the end of the back straight. And here Dick definitely hurting. He's using the curbs everywhere. He's just losing control of the car at the pace he has to go, or the pace that Jim is forcing him to go. You'll see that Chelsea are just slopping around a bit. Another bounce and a flip, and this time Dick definitely went.
Yep.
Jim driving forcefully, I'd have to say, not ungentlemanly. That was life in the fast lane. Dick Johnson definitely losing control of his car. And by that I mean the tires just getting soggy on him, and he just couldn't maintain the pace that was being exerted on him by the GTR.
Order is John Bowe, the race leader in the Shell Sierra, running in 2nd place. Jim Richards in the Winfield Nissan. 3rd spot to Mark Scaife in the 2nd of the Nissans. And then, of course, back there in fourth spot is Mark Gibbs in the GIO Nissan, and then Peter Brock. That's the order as Larry Perkins, Larry and Dick Johnson.
These guys are getting, this is where the drivers are going to have to exert all the experience they've got. Larry saved that beautifully, but less experienced driver may have been in a lot of trouble there. That's 1,300 kilos of metal going for a ride, and the tires have said, look, we've done our bit. You're asking too much from us. Larry definitely skating around now. I think it's only a matter of time before Tony Longhurst gets the bite on him. Nice slipstream here up the front straight. Not quite close enough. The old Commodore still holding him off.
Going to take one big lick here under brakes as he goes through on the inside of Larry, so he moves up a spot.
He'd have difficulty matching a BMW under brakes, but Larry's got some good grunt out of the corner.
Larry didn't give it away.
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
Let's have a look at a replay we've got for you. This incident with Larry Perkins, when Larry gets the tail out, there's Wayne Park in 35. He's jumped over the curb and he's gone straight out to South Melbourne. So Park off the racetrack and rejoins again. Perkins position number 7. It's been quite an outstanding drive for Larry Perkins. Bow leads now by 4.8 seconds.
So he'll be counting every lap to go now. It'll be a nightmare for him. This will be the longest 3 or 4 laps he's had for a long time, but still, by any measure, a reasonably comfortable lead from Jim Richards at the moment.
Oh, plenty of fisticuffs back here.
Yeah,
too.
if you want to put the nose up inside Larry, you've got to fight for it. He doesn't give way.
Larry can make that car 13 feet wide if he wants to. He's a tough customer.
And a good result for the Shell Johnson team as John Bowe still leads them down to the pits for the final time. Everyone standing next to the pit wall. Bowie's been chasing one of these for ages, and today he wins this one on merit all the way. Last turn. Spectators stand in the grandstand. John Bowe. Clean sweep today for the Johnson team at Sandown. They take round number 2. Mark Scaife in the Nissan finishes in second, and third place will go to Jim Richards. And he deserves all the accolades today, John Bowe.
He did extremely well.
I must say that's a great return to form for the Ford Sierra.
Certainly is, Mark. It's a great effort by all the guys in the Shell team. They made a very good car for me to drive today, and the Dunlop tyres were tremendous, so we've really made some inroads lately.
Welcome to Symmons Plains in round 3 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Mark Scaife and Jim Richards topped the leaderboard in their Nissan GTRs. Well, when we left Symmons Plains last night, John Bowe had pole position. Of course, the Peter Jackson Dash opens proceedings on a Sunday morning, and unfortunately, John Bowe pulled position number 6. Here we are with the start. Glenn Seaton pulled number 1 out of the bag, and he led early from Dick Johnson. Then we saw Johnson streak around the outside, having a little contact, a little bodywork hanging off the car there, but he was still able to outdistance himself. It was a fantastic drive from Dick Johnson and gave him the opportunity, of course, to sit on pole position today. But if I guess one driver is disappointed, it's John Bowe, who has been the fastest man in 3 touring car rounds, but will start not off pole today. Off the start, has Seaton won it? He sure has. He gets away quickly, but John Bowe in the number 18 car picks up a gear and comes up smartly as they come up to the first corner. And Mark Gibbs on the outside, that is not the lie to the first turn. He's going to get caught very wide here, but he goes in deep, and he'll get plenty of acceleration off that 4-wheel drive car as he comes off the bend. As John Bowe tries to get to the outside of Dick Johnson. He's a little quicker than Gibbs coming down the back straight, but it's Glenn Seaton who will lead them down through the curve. Johnson right on his tail, then comes John Bowe.
Here comes Brock down the outside of Gibbs as they head into the hairpin. And the Commodore's having quite a competitive run here, considering they haven't had a lot of testing time. Brock run down the outside, not the place to be. Gibbs gets the acceleration of the 4-wheel drive Nissan out of there a little bit better. But watch the power advantage of the Commodore. Up about 50 horsepower on the GTR and 100 kilograms lighter. This is where power to weight ratios come into play. Here's Scaife running in 6th position. His teammate Richards is still round the back of the field. Now that's a real change from last year. 12 months can make a lot of difference in motor racing.
And John Bowe in car number 18 getting to the outside of team leader Dick Johnson. That moves him up into 2nd. Johnson back to 3rd now. Meanwhile, Glenn Seaton gets away from the pack in car number 30, the Peter Jackson entry. The exit to the hairpin, and Mark Scaife, car number 2, finding the inside line there on Peter Brock.
There's Wayne Park still in the pits with some sort of major engine problem. That's a great disappointment for the young Queenslander. The Commodores are struggling around here. Oh, look at that massive brake lock up there.
Oh, and he's gone. It must have a puncture.
Now he's in the soft stuff. He's got the foot into it to try and get a bit of traction. He might get out.
Yeah, I think he'll get out okay. It's fairly dry down there, as you can see. Problem there for Wayne Park sitting it out in the pits, and Glenn Seaton in car number 30. Oh, right behind Seaton, there's one gone. Bauer's gone sideways.
They must be jumping on the brakes down into the hairpin more than we anticipated. It is a tough corner. You do have to pull up for it, but he's resorted to reversing out of the way. It looks like a lot of oil dripping out of that engine, Michael. I think he can kiss it goodbye. He's just being polite here and getting out of the corner. He's not even trying to.
It wasn't just a while spin, something let go, and maybe he lit up the bags on the oil, so who knows, but that's a major problem for John Bowe, and I tell you what, it has left an enormous amount of oil down there.
Side by side, door handle to door handle down the back straight. This is the battle for 5th and 6th. Richards has a nose in front, but Gibbs has probably got the best position.
He can stay with him as long as he stays parallel with him, but he had to.
And Jim's trying
discretion.
Nissan race cam shows us Richards goes a little bit deeper under brakes and leads Gibbs out of the corner, so he moves up to 5th. Gibbs goes one back down to 6th.
He's coming down to the last series of turns. This will give them some joy. The Peter Jacksons here of Glenn Seaton comes out, heading down to take the checkered flag. So Seaton takes heat number 1. Dickie Johnson easing up, coming across the line, takes second. Not too far behind him was Mark Scaife, followed by Tony Longhurst. Then Jimmy Richards, Mark Gibbs and Alan Jones. Neil Crompton the next one, and Wayne Park rounding out the finishes. Only a few seconds away from the start of the second heat, the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship from Simmons Plains. The 2 Sierras on the front row. Off the start, the 2 Nissans get away beautifully, and there's a full drag as they go to the first turn. The BMW got away, and it's going to be Glenn Seaton on the inside and Dick Johnson the outside. Now Johnson's got to get across and tuck in behind Seaton. Look at Longhurst going right around them, and he'll pay the penalty as far as horsepower is concerned on the exit to that turn. But it'll be Seaton looking for 2 out of 2 as he comes down to the right-hand kink, and he'll lead the field as they start to build up to full-on speed. Seaton opens it up to 2 car lengths over Johnson. Then you've got the little bimmer up on the inside of Mark Scaife. Fascinating this. And of course Neil Crompton in there as well, and Peter Brock starting from the back of the field with a 10-second penalty.
Look at Crompton pushing his way through the pack there. Longhurst, by way of his excellent start in the first heat, starting 4th on the grid, and he's been pushed back in the power race up the back straight for the first time. But there's Crompton up there in 4th position. That's a great start from him.
They come across under the line, 1 lap down, still a lot to go. Glenn Seaton in the 30 car leads from Johnson. And now watch the acceleration here, the exit to this turn. Mark Scaife dives in, pulls back on the inside. Now watch the horsepower, 4-wheel drive, no advantage, huh?
No, not much.
But well, watch Johnson now with horsepower.
And hasn't it got some horsepower? Johnson leaves Scaife behind as they head up the back straight into the loop for the first time. The Ford not lacking in front. But look at Crompton. This is a great run from Niels on wheels. Hasn't been happy with the car all the weekend. He wasn't happy with the handling in the first heat. It's his first time at Simmons Plains, and he's really enjoying himself in this second heat, up in 4th place.
And this is good stuff, and there's plenty happening even back behind this group as Mark Scaife works to the outside. He's trying to get a line here on Johnson.
Scaife's getting aggravated now, Michael. You can see he's bound. When you see the car wobbling like that, he's pushing it to the limit. He's really getting frustrated by Dick's position here. Dick taking all the lines he should to protect his line of attack, but here we have the Winfield Nissan coming up on the outside. It's not going to do him a lot of good. Little under brakes, he's taking the dive.
Okay, he'll go through. He picks the inside rear wheel up on the curb on the exit.
Bond has been snookered by Dick. Oh, he gives him a there was plenty of body contact.
You taught him well, Al.
Yeah, Colin wants to make up for it. Well, that's what you can do when you have the confidence with the tires, and let's be kind to the others. He's got a brand new fresh car here, fresh engine and fresh tires, so he can thrash it around the corners much more confidently. Dick is struggling around on a set that he's already given pretty much a serve of curry in the first heat, but I think Neil's doing extremely well here. We must compliment him.
I get the feeling that Dick may be holding him up, certainly on some sections of the circuit.
Well, I'll tell you what, in reading this one, I think you find that the next maybe 5 or 6 laps, you're going to see Bond make an absolute charge at Mark Scaife. They come off the Dunlop Bridge area. That's Alan Jones going through. There's Johnson. Right behind him, Neil Crompton. Up on the inside comes Wayne Park in the second of the PJ cars. Come on, Dick, he said, get on with it.
Gives him a serve. There's plenty of glass flying everywhere. Look at this gaggle of cars behind them. The 2 Nissans, Dick Johnson and the other Alan Jones BMW locked in behind there. This is a terrific race. As you can see here, he goes outside Scaife as they head under brakes. The GTR is very strong in the braking department. Bond going deeper and deeper. He's done it easily.
The big thing now, Alan, is that Bondy could actually be the series spoiler for today. Seaton really, after losing points at Sandown last weekend where he had a terrible time, Bondy hasn't run the first heat. And if he gets Seaton, he's going to cost Seaton some points here today, and Seaton really did need those 30 series points at the end of the afternoon. Coming up underneath the Dunlop Bridge, and here comes Jim Richards. Working to the outside, but Dick's already there, and Dick will stay to the inside as they go up to the left-hander and actually gets away from Jim. Now the brakes as Longhurst, I think the moment of truth.
And went just a little bit wide there to let Crompton know that he had taken charge of that corner. He just cost Crompton a little bit of time there, couldn't quite get on. He's having another go at him, but that was a very nice strategic move by Tony Longhurst. Just ever so subtle.
It was.
A bit further back there, behind that battle, here's Johnson and Richards. Johnson's doing a remarkable job to hold Richards off up till now, but Jim sneaks through.
He knows he has the race won at this stage, and he's driven a great 2 races here today at Simmons Plains. The dust has been on the circuit up at that top end all day. You're coming down to the final series of heats, and the Peter Jackson Ford Sierra of Glenn Seaton comes up with a double at round 3 today at Simmons Plains, Tasmania. He wins from Colin Bonds, Caltech Sierra, and 3rd goes to Mark Scaife in the Nissan. 4th going to Park, and 5th to Jimmy Richards.
Well done, Glenn. Great to see you back in form. The Peter Jackson car running extraordinarily well.
Yeah, it's actually running very well. I was very surprised at how our form was today. I'm very, very happy. But once we start to get to the circuits at the end of the rounds, we're going to find it fairly hard in the tight circuits. So these are the circuits that suited us.
So, progressive points after 3 rounds. Scaife the leader on 84, Richards on 72, Seaton on 66 now, and Dick Johnson 57. Welcome to Winton Motor Raceway and round 4 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Well, Team Nissan have been extremely hard to beat at Winton over the past 4 years, and I'm quite sure my co-commentator Alan Moffat feels the same way as I do. They'll be tough to beat here today, Alan.
They will be, Mike. The 4-wheel drive comes into its own here, short jig-jag corners, and they only have to pick the right tyre combination and they'll be in good shape.
The Peter Jackson Dash early on Sunday morning provides plenty of action. And of course the draw for starting positions is even more interesting. Today of course we saw Mark Scaife get off from the front row. Second spot held by Glenn Seaton in the number 30 Peter Jackson Sierra, and right behind him was Jimmy Richards, who unfortunately just couldn't come up with victory. So Jimmy Richards was fastest in practice yesterday, but Mark Scaife has pole for today and Glenn Seaton alongside him. They sat there, Scaife went out and so did Richards. Through quickly went John Bow on the inside of Larry Perkins as they come down to the right-hander, and this is really just a funnel as they come off the straight. Then they work downhill slightly to another right-hander that sees the 2 Nissans with Scaife opening it up to 3 car lengths over Jimmy Richards. Right behind him is Glenn Seaton, then followed by John Bow. Next on the queue is Larry Perkins. Dick Johnson was up pretty smartly as they went through there, and I think perhaps then Peter Brock. That's the order. And you just can't beat that 4-wheel drive car off the line, Alan Moffat.
No, you can't, but Glenn Seaton was holding his engine beautifully. He looked like he was going to get a very good start, and just at the very last second before the light went to green, he backed off momentarily and stalled his slingshot shot, and that gave Jim Richards the chance he needed.
That's all Richards did need, because Scaife opens it up to about 5 car lengths coming down the back straight. And here's Mark Gibbs in the GIO coming down on the inside here of Peter Brock.
Certainly Bob Forbes expected this to happen, to see the GIO car pushing its way through the field. This car was very quick here on Friday and Saturday, but Mark admits that in qualifying he just stuffed it up. He just couldn't put a good lap together and he ended up down the grid, but as you can see the times of the grid were very tight, and certainly Bob Forbes expected Mark to push his way through the field, which he's doing now.
But I think Longhurst Allen is perhaps just a little bit closer. In fact, it's Brock who's starting to do a bit of defensive driving now to keep Tony Longhurst at bay. So keep an eye on this when they come through the S's and work the front straight, and particularly the braking area for the next right-hander. Now he's almost line astern, comes down the inside. If he can keep on, under brakes, here he comes, moment of truth on the inside. And you watch Jones up on the inside. They're going to hang Brock out to dry here. Beautiful driving from the Bimmer pair. Fascinating stuff, this. David and Goliath as Tony Longhurst and Alan Jones in the Benson and Hedges car muscle their way past Peter Brock. We take Dunlop race cam. Here's Tony Longhurst down the inside. Jones just sits right behind him. And they're in a lot of traffic here, as you can see, they're taking the right-hander at Penrite.
9 laps to go. This is the battle for 7th, 8th and 9th. And here comes Tony again.
He won't get Dick there, but he might be able to get him under brakes again, where he and Alan Jones were able to nobble Brock a couple of laps ago.
He's not quite close enough this time, and
he is now.
That's all he needed. That's all he needed.
Down the inside, let's see. There he goes on the inside. Now, can Johnson get back on the inside? Yes. Dick read that pretty good. He had to try and keep Alan Jones, but Jones goes snip, 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 and a bit of tug. Johnson's got one wheel in the rough, and this dice continues.
Well, these BMW guys are trying hard here today. They're really fair dinkum here, and you'd almost think that Alan Jones and Tony were changing gears in unison. Jones is determined to let Dick Johnson know the track is his. They need to get in front of the Sierra to go after the leaders.
This has been an outstanding performance as they come up to the line. Checkered flag ready, and it'll be Mark Scaife in the number 2 Winfield Nissan that gets across the line. Jimmy Richards in the number 1 Winfield Nissan runs in second spot. The Peter Jackson Sierra of Glen Seaton takes third. Perkins will be fourth. Fifth will be Bow. Sixth will be Tony Longhurst, and seventh Alan Jones. And let me tell you, that was a most entertaining touring car race. 10 seconds away from the start. Heat number 2, round 4 from Winton Motor Raceway.
Come on.
Racing, getting off the line first of all was Jimmy Richards, but I tell you what, it's everyone and his dog. They're 4 wide, dropping into the right-hander. That is the longest 10 seconds I can recall for ages. The 2 Winfield Nissans.
One of the Shell cars spun on the opening corner there. Brock's involved as well. There's Wayne Park. I saw one, that was Johnson. I saw one of the Shell cars spin in the middle of the pack there.
Whoa, Dickie catches it 360 and floors it. Now that'll put some heat into the tyres. That was not the start that Dick Johnson needed. We'll have a look at that on replay later as we take them coming up into the top end. John Bower drops into the 3rd spot. Glen Seaton is 4th. Larry Perkins is 5th. And then Tony Longhurst is 6th. That's the order as they rush up through Tooheys turn, now through Champion, and they come down the back straight. The 2 Nissans out very, very comfortably at this stage.
It's going to be interesting to watch the progress of the BMWs in this race too, Michael. They're already looking outside Larry Perkins there. Larry did a very consistent run. The car's obviously well balanced in the first heat, but the BMW's tyre wear will probably just give them the edge in this second race.
Coming up across the strike, the complete of the first lap. Jim Richards is your race leader as we pick up through the replay here as John Bower gets down in there. Here comes Johnson. Nothing untoward there, so something has happened on the inside of Johnson. Wayne Park goes the outside. Brock gets caught up on the way through, and I think it may have even been Paul Morris on the inside. And that's how Dickie wound up facing the wrong way.
Johnson into the pits now. Get some new tyres on there. They'll be nice and flat spotted. Scaife just took Richards for first place. Snuck down the inside of the corner there. John Bow on the Shell Sierra, showing great consistency in the Shell cars. As I said, with these new Dunlop tyres, they're doing a lot of work. Getting good consistency out of them around Winton. Then there's Seaton. So it's the 2 Nissans and the Sierra Brigade, as we saw in the first heat. Larry Perkins in 5th place.
Yeah, mate, I can hear you, Mike.
Can you? What actually happened? Looked like you got nobbled from the inside.
Well, I think Brocky's obviously losing his touch a bit. He sort of just T-boned me in the door, but that's part and parcel of what we're here for, I suppose.
Yeah, but no one wants to go out in the first turn. You put a lot of effort into it. I was going to say it's a pretty tight first turn anyway.
It's a very tight first corner, and there's actually a lot of incidents happen there, but there's not very far between there and the start, so they're the sort of things that happen every now and then.
Probably most of the sparks at Winton flew at the press conference following qualifying yesterday. Larry Perkins opening up in the biggest tirade about a non-appearance by Holden Racing Team. I alluded that some weeks ago. They're only running selected rounds this year. John Crennan of Holden Racing Team was was pointing out to me at the recent Dunlop Media Awards that 65% of their budget for 1992 is going to Tom Walkingshaw for the development of the VP car for next year.
Yes, Mike, but next year is next year, and I thought the Pentagon operates in this year, we spend this year's money, and next year we spend next year's money. So I'm not really buying that. They represent the factory. Holden, the fans around the country have relied on the Holden involvement. They've gone to all the trouble of producing the Group A cars over the last 5 or 6 years, and then all of a sudden life's too hard for them. I haven't got a lot of sympathy for the situation.
No, I just point that out. John has pointed out also that he's under a lot of pressure from a lot of Holden dealers around Australia who also want to know, but that's the factory line, that 65% of their budget for 92 has gone to the development of what they believe will be a winning car next year. Let's just wait and see.
Where they are, and driving quite considerably.
Whoa! Lightning Larry opens up the bags.
Yeah. 2 tires gone off. That's all that was. The car leaning into that corner, not a very fast corner, but the full lateral force of the weight of the car. And
big dust cloud. Can't see who that is.
Now, whether the two BMWs can force the issue with Glenn Seaton and John Bowe, we'll have to wait and see. Larry's dropped back. He has probably lost about 5 or 6 car lengths, plus a couple of rungs on the ladder as well.
I'd say that beyond, for sure, the aggressiveness of the 2 yellow cars, certainly there, just the slightest mistake, Glenn slipped off the pace. Larry's nailed him. So this is one thing you can say about the Winton course. It might be a little bit on the Mickey Mouse twisty side, but by the same token, make the slightest mistake and you're out of the race.
Okay, Jimmy Richards, we take Nissan race cam. He rides behind team partner Mark Scaife as they go up into the left-hander. Now just listen to the engine revs, and that'll tell you how hard they're working.
Well, I think my idol on my old Vespa scooter used to run a little higher than that.
John Bowe is hanging on. And if he's come this far, Alan, I guess there's a good chance he's going to do it.
He could actually pull it off. I think this is a sterling job. He's really doing well. And you have to compliment the fellows behind that are aggravating such an aggressive attack in such a sporting manner. They're not touching. We've seen them, couldn't get any closer than that.
Just look at this. The acceleration out of this turn is sensational. But obviously, JB uses the line, which is across to the right for the next turn. That's not to say that Tony doesn't keep in on the paint and just keep worrying him all the time, then gets the half a slingshot but got the car sideways on the exit, gets a finger out the window. So Tony knows he's rattling him.
Well, we're one bonnet down already. I can see 3 dents in the front of that BMW. That's one bonnet for Monday morning repairs.
I think Ronnie Meacham wouldn't mind paying for those. They've got 2 laps to go, and here's Longhurst perfectly positioned, but they came up on a slower car, and that was the end of that one. Now, Glenn Seaton is back in it. He wants a slice of championship points, but the chances of Glenn being able to hose off the 3 in front of him are negligible, because Bowe gets away just a touch here from Tony Longhurst.
Well, the further Glenn slips down the field, the further he gets away from the Nissans in the points chase. He's 3rd in the championship at the moment, so if the Nissans get 1st and 2nd and he gets 6th, that's really going to damage his championship hopes.
Well, that's what it's looking as Glenn goes up and takes Alan Jones out.
Yes, definitely.
And all's fair in love and war, I guess. Jonesy won't beef too much about it, but he really dived in, and that's what you really call being hung out to dry.
Meanwhile, Mark Scaife's back in 1st position, Jim Richards in 2nd. And 2 wins from 2 starts.
You started all of this, Alan, with your form finish.
Yes, thank you very much. But the only trouble, Michael, I'm having trouble remembering how long ago that was.
Well, they take the 1 lap signal. So 1 to go for Mark Scaife leading from Jimmy Richards. 3rd still to be resolved, John Bowe. Tony Longhurst.
I was going to say, Michael, that BMW is getting more and more dented every time they come round here. Look at the bonnet.
Well, he's put a great show on for the fans here. There's Bowe, he's gone.
He's done it.
He said, that's enough, I've had it.
Hang on, John.
Bowe off into the kitty litter.
Yeah. Did well to save it. Well, not to hit a fence. That was a little unfortunate, I think.
He will not be a happy boy.
Lost his battle with his frustration, and
if it rains, he's okay. The wipers are on. Final lap, and it's Mark Scaife in car number 2, the Winfield Nissan. Jimmy Richards closing it up for a form finish. Obviously, it's been set for Mark Scaife to win the championship this year. They come down the back straight, That's going to put Longhurst up into third spot. I think Glenn Seaton probably to fourth and Alan Jones maybe fifth. That looks like the order as they come to the S's for the final time. We've got an Australian Touring Car Championship by Shell that's well and truly alive. Round 4 at Winton, the Nissans for Winfield Strike across the line. It's Mark Scaife to win it from Gentleman Jim Richards. The giant-killing performance from Tony Longhurst takes third. Glenn Seaton picks up a fourth. Jonesy takes fifth. Perkins takes sixth.
Great effort. The Nissans, if you don't mind me saying, looked to be doing it pretty easy from the commentary box.
Oh, well, they're a very good car, and this sort of circuit suits them. So, you know, in the early part of the race, we got a bit of a buffer and then tried to conserve the tyre. We were waiting for either Glenn or the little BMWs to catch us.
So, points after 4 rounds. Mark Scaife for the Winfield team leads on 114. Jimmy Richards runs in second on 99. Glenn Seaton still in it, 90 points, clear of Mark Gibbs on 70. And Dickie Johnson rounds out the 5 with 68 points. And welcome to Lakeside Raceway in Brisbane and, of course, round 5 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Holden very well represented at Lakeside today. Peter Brock is here. Thomas Mazira, who got away this morning in the Peter Jackson Dash. Got away, that's correct, got away on the grass and finished last. He'll do it fairly tough today out of position number 6. Mark Oastler, our man in the pits today. Mark, Freddie Gibson not too happy about the 100 kilo additional weight.
He's certainly not happy about it, Michael, and it's been a long time, as you say, since we've seen the Nissans out of the top 10. I think the accusations and the criticisms about Nissans sandbagging has really reached boiling point this weekend at Lakeside.
OK, Mark, we'll follow that and you'll bring us all the action from the pits. Off the line goes Bow. See ya! Perkins down the outside. Longhurst goes after him. Mazira tries to fight down the inside, as you'll see here. Mazira in amongst a whole wall of cars, and there's one going out. Mark Gibson, the GIO Commodore. They parked the Nissan this weekend and elected to run with the Commodore. He'll need to get back on the track and in a hurry. Out of the carousel. Looks like Pitt Street Friday afternoon around 5 p.m. But it's Bow in front. Moving up very quickly into the second spot was Larry Perkins, who got a brilliant start, Alan Moffat.
Yes, he did, mate, and Colin Bond absolutely stood on the start line. John Bowe got an immaculate start. Absolutely one of the best starts I've ever seen John take off the front row. But certainly Larry Perkins shot from the third row of the grid up into second spot, and he's going to be very hard to get by from Tony Longhurst. Compliments to Larry Perkins. He's only run this car twice this year, twice in the top 6, and here running a very strong second.
Looks like Dick Johnson may have a flat tyre. He's headed for the pits, coming in for a quick changeover now.
He is all over Bow like a rash, and look at Tony Longhurst just hanging in there waiting for either of these two in front to make a mistake. That's not likely, I wouldn't think, but he's hoping. And if he gets onto John Bow's tail, well, memories of Winton will come flooding back.
Yes, but they better not come flooding back too quickly, because Winton cost Tony $5,000 for his efforts. For that, no, we can't get any closer than that. Larry is definitely, he's a charger this weekend. He's got the bit between his teeth. He was very proud of his position yesterday. Held off a reasonable position in the dash this morning, and here he is in the lead of a Group A touring car racer. Great run, Larry Perkins.
Look at the crowd, Wilco, as he stretches it across the line. They're all standing, waving, as Lightning Larry takes the Castrol Commodore down to the carousel, and keep an eye on Tony Longhurst.
Terrific job by Glenn Seaton getting up to 4th place in the race. Still got a lot of work to do to haul in the top bracket. Mark Scaife, of course, running in 5th. Second of the BMWs, Alan Jones slotted in right behind him.
Pokes the nose again down on the inside. Longhurst side by side, door handle to door handle here with John Bowe, and passes him on the inside just as he gets beneath the Dunlop Bridge, runs downhill to Hungry Corner. Will Larry Perkins be next?
Superb driving. Very, very patiently sat in the slipstream. And I believe John Bowe just got a little bit wide coming out of the carousel, and that's all Tony Longhurst needed.
AJ keeping right on the tail of Jimmy Richards' Winfield Nissan as they go beneath the Dunlop Bridge and come down. See if Jonesy goes the inside. Yes, he does. So if we're seeing Tony on the outside and now Alan on the inside, great little passing area for the BMWs.
Now Tony will monster Larry. He won't put up with too much hindrance here, but by the same token, if he touches that Commodore, he's going to come off second best. That's 1,300 kilos of very firm metal sitting there.
Well, Larry's been all fired up here. Here comes Longhurst. Oh, got him. Yes, what a beautiful manoeuvre, and so simple the way he did it.
Well, the
BMWs were outstanding here last year. They're carrying another 20 kilos more this year than last at this stage of the season. But Lakeside is home territory for Frank Gardner, Tony Longhurst and the Benson and Hedges team. Brakes, as Alan has said, may well be the problem.
This is very conservative. This is very dangerous there, Michael, coming through that left-hander. They're doing over 220 Ks, and just the slightest amount of misjudgment. And John getting a little bit annoyed with Larry there. He's certainly...
Larry will drive him off the damn racetrack if he pulls too much of that stuff on.
Well, that allowed Mark Scaife to move up one notch.
That cost John his endeavour there. He's pushed the front guard onto his own tyre. He got a little annoyed. He didn't show the patience that Tony Longhurst exerted and had to put up with for many laps. And you just can't nudge.
We take our race cam sitting on the top of Glenn Seaton's Peter Jackson Sierra. He's mixed up in all of this. Oh, there goes one of those little Corollas, I think it was, off the racetrack, right caught up in that massive car.
I'm very concerned about John Bowes' tyre. He must know himself. He can see that smoke. I hope he knows how much rubber is sitting on that Dunlop tyre, but not the kind of place you want to have a blowout. But he's coming back at Larry. He's not giving up. He's going to try it again. And this time he's actually right up alongside. He's going to do the same move that Tony Longhurst executed and has managed to do it.
He could possibly get down. You can see him 2 cars ahead on the inside, and that's exactly what he did to Perkins. So Alan Jones storming through. He's been able to pass quite a number of them. Coming off the hill now, we're looking for the checkered flag as they come down. Tony Longhurst in the Benson and Hedges BMW. The checkered flag is out. David and Goliath. Round 1 here today has gone to David. Across the line into second spot will be Mark Scaife in the Winfield Nissan. Third will be John Bauer in the Shell Sierra. Alan Jones finishes 4th in the second of the B&H BMWs. Richards 5th, Seaton 6th, and Larry Perkins 7th. What's that, a Brock Boater and a Dick hat? Right at the back this afternoon, Larry Perkins, Mark Scaife, Kevin Waldock, Terry Finnegan and Bob Jones, all because of tyres, Alan Moffat.
Yes, they've scuffed their tyres beyond repair in the first heat, and they've asked for replacement tyres. They've been granted that, but they suffer the indignity of starting from the back of the field, plus a 10-second delay, so we've got a double start.
Long 10 seconds, but Bow gets off the line, and there goes Richards down the outside. See ya, boys. 4-wheel drive. Just zooms off the start as everyone thought he would. John Bow immediately drops into second. Next is Tony Longhurst, and right behind him is Alan Jones. Those starting from the back of the field have got a lot of work to do. They have to be careful in the opening couple of laps of this race. Perkins trying to come through the pack. There's Johnson. He's lined up in car number 17 after problems earlier today. They're through the carousel on their way to the Dunlop Bridge and the run downhill to the left-hander at Hungry Corner. Well, race cam in Dick Johnson's car shows it all. As Johnson gets away from Colin Bond, that was through Hungry Corner. Keeping in mind that Dick hasn't had the best of days so far, but they've been able to repair the car.
He may be a little bit tippy-toeing on his own tyres, but Dick thrashing there now, using every little bit of the track and onto the slipstream here. Not particularly nice place to have to do it, but good on you, mate. Nailed him.
Good pass, too.
Very good pass. And now we'll take advantage of brakes, and Brocky looming up for another go, but he'll lose his momentum through the chicane here.
I reckon Tony would be better off sending Bowie up for a pass on the inside if he could get him at the end of the front straight, because I'm sure John's convinced, whenever he protects the entrance to Hungary, he's got Tony under control.
And Jim Richards just ahead of them now, starting to overhaul some of the slower traffic. So this is going to make it interesting for Bow and Longhurst as they get mixed up with these other cars.
Yeah, Richards is starting to disappear now. So he gained another car length or maybe two over in the last 2 laps.
Oh,
Here's
look at
Wilmington.
this. This is beautiful.
He's got him.
Down the inside.
Snooker. Bad play, snooker, Gary. Exactly. Not even in off. That was a beautiful snooker. And Tony found John Bow asleep at the wheel. Should have seen that on the horizon.
And now he's got Alan Jones all over him.
Yeah. Yeah, great little passing move there from Tony Longhurst. I tell you, poor old JB will hang his head in shame in the transporter later. Here comes Paul Morris through on the inside. He's driving a splendid race. The third of the B&H BMWs. Is now AJ moves up on the tail of Johnny Bow.
Dust everywhere here at Lakeside, and that is Jimmy Richards in car number 1, who appeared to have a brake lock up. He went off the circuit on the approach to the carousel. Now Richards is trying to claw his way back. Tony Longhurst has taken off like Tony the Tiger. He's put space between himself and the rest of the field so far after Richards. Let's have a look at the replay. We take the Nissan race cam out the back of Jimmy Richards' car, and he got the tail out.
Got wide on the exit of the right-hander and just rode it out, and great driver that he is, he didn't hit that wall. Anybody else would have spearheaded themselves right into the bank, but he saved it. But naturally, Tony slipped by.
Dick Johnson carrying out Dunlop race cam. Just behind him is Glenn Seaton. We'll spin it around and have a look what Dick's doing.
And just ahead of him, Kevin Waldock.
Kevin locked up one on the way in by the look of it. Meanwhile, AJ works over John Bauer. Jones looking for a third spot on the rostrum here today. Now, he pokes the nose down on the inside. Oh, it sent him on his way.
I was waiting for that. Tony wasn't doing that. He'd earned his first 5,000 last round at Winton.
Deary me.
That was a little cheeky on Allen's part. Down under brakes here now. Car bobbing a little bit. That extra weight certainly making the springs work for themselves.
There's Jimmy at work. Meanwhile, Paul Morris, in the third of the Bimmers, has actually got a feeling that he might challenge Jonesy.
Yeah, well, I hope that's all he has is a feeling.
Here is Tony Longhurst. Last corner coming up. The Dream Team, the Benson and Hedges squad, coming out of the last corner, and it has been a fantastic day for Tony Longhurst. 2 heats, and he's come up a winner twice here today at Lakeside. Second spot is going to go to Jimmy Richards in the Winfield Nissan GTR, and third will go to Alan Jones in the second of the Benson and Hedges BMWs.
A brave fight from Mark Scaife, I must say, in the first round, yourself in the second heat. And I'm not criticising your diet, but maybe you're a little overweight.
We are a little overweight, but unfortunately it's not the driver.
Listen, you've got yourself in a little tangle here on the kink.
Yes, we sort of take the kink flat out now. With the extra weight, it just bounced the car too far off the circuit and I ended up on the grass. So I had to sort of put the brakes on the grass, which wasn't too good.
Well, we're certainly getting plenty of close racing.
Yes, we are.
Tony Longhurst, congratulations, BMWs today. Yourself in particular put up a phenomenal performance.
Yeah, I was pretty pleased when my mate that doesn't make too many mistakes slipped off. I think he would have been a hard guy to pass. You know, I believe the rules are very close now, and I'm just so pleased to be up there again.
Let's take a look at the points table, how they are after round 5. Mark Scaife is your leader, 133 to 126 Richards. Seaton on 104, Longhurst 90 and John Bauer 81. Welcome to Eastern Creek Raceway in Sydney in round 6 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. When we left here yesterday, John Bauer had pole position, but of course his teammate Dick Johnson drew the outside of the front row. And as you can see, Mark Scaife got away to a rather slow start. That put John Bauer and Dick Johnson up chasing 1-2, and that's exactly where they finished. Johnson looking quite keen there as he got away from John Bauer. And Larry Perkins, of course, was to finish in third place.
And there's Thomas Mazira at the back of the field. And yesterday, Thomas in the Holden Racing Team Commodore had a very difficult qualifying on his flying lap at the fast left-hander at the end of the long straight. He got out in the grass here, got the car all sideways, slammed the wall and wrote that car off. Terry Finnegan very lucky to miss Thomas Mazira. You can see the damage done to the HRT Commodore. So last night the crew went to enormous lengths to change engines and gearboxes and get this spare car ready. He'll run from the back of the grid with a 10-second penalty with new tyres.
Round 6 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship from Eastern Creek. They're racing, and look at Scaife, straight between the pair of them. Four-wheel drive, no advantage? Don't you believe it? Heading down to the first turn, it'll be Mark Scaife that leads them in there. Dick Johnson in second spot. They're followed by John Bauer. There's the Lansvale Smash Repairs car going through. Tony Longhurst away to a good start, and so too Alan Jones. Turn number 2. And the Nissan will lead. The 2 Shell Sierras tucked in behind them, and then Larry Perkins and the statewide Rhodes Commodore coming up very smartly behind John Bauer.
Certainly a great start from Mark Scaife, and he's wanting, of course, to protect his championship lead, and he's trying to pull off a double in 1992 and win the Australian Driving Championship as well as the Touring Car Championship. But there's a heck of an argument for the minor placings.
Well, he's gained a couple of spots. Here's John Bowe pulling out of the slipstream, just has a look at Dick Johnson. That is the fastest corner on the circuit, as Bowe, down on the inside of his team leader, wraps up second spot, hits on the toe now in the Winfield Nissan as they head down to turn number 2. And JB in no mood to settle for second best today. He's on the tail of the Nissan. Dick sits in right behind him. Larry Perkins, a very comfortable 4th at this stage.
Well, John Bowe's been knocked around by a variety of competitors over the last couple of rounds, Mike, and I think he's going to be quite happy just to get up there and do battle with Mark Scaife and show who's boss here.
Looks like Terry Finnegan, is it, that's blowing all that smoke?
There's plenty of it.
Foodtown Commodore. It looks like it's launched itself. It's getting close up here. We take Nissan race cam. This is Jimmy Richards' car riding back in the pack.
Jim had a problem in qualifying yesterday. The car ran on 5 cylinders, and that's why he qualified way back in 12th position. Uncharacteristic for Jimmy Richards, who is always at the front of the field. He's alongside Wayne Park and Peter Jackson Sierra at the moment, trying to work his way through. This is a very, very tricky track to pass on. I personally love the track. I think it's a fabulous complex, and Richards through on the inside of Park. But you have to pick and choose your passing spots very wisely. There are a lot of places on the track where 2 lines converge, and look at this scrap with Bowe up on the outside of Scaife, and the Sierra just blast past into the lead. So clearly the Ford with a horsepower edge at the moment. Bowe made a good run onto the straight, got the draft in behind Mark Scaife, and Larry Perkins is tagging along well in the Commodore. So we've got Sierra from Nissan, then another Sierra, and then Larry attacking Nick Johnson in the argument for 3rd place.
Looks like the Finnegan car, the number 27 car, is in the pits, out of commission.
Bowe's opening up a very healthy gap now over this group, but just going back to discussing Tony Longhurst, I think that you'll find as this race unfolds, and it's 16 laps in total, and then you get into the second heat, the BMW will be very strong. Larry now up the inside of Dick Johnson. Dunlop race cam tells the story, and Larry has a spin, and a big one. Locked up the rear brakes.
And he's got Johnson, the side of Johnson's car on the way through. There's not too much room there. Fortunately, they've all got through on the inside. Minimal damage, I would think, to the Perkins car. There's Thomas Mazera. Let's have a look at this as Larry comes up on the statewide roads. Commodore slips it down on the inside, locks up the brakes. The tail comes out. There it is. Bang.
Well, that cost Dick a window as well. He's going to have a bit of shattered glass in the cockpit of his Shell Sierra.
Dick Neil Crompton, what happened out there?
Mate, LP did another one of his desperate braking manoeuvres. He reversed it into my door. I got glass everywhere in here. It's down my shoes, down my pants. It's a bit prickly, old cock.
Pain of a glass, yeah.
Come on, Dick. A little bit of cut glass never hurt anybody. Just go back and get it.
Mate, I've always wanted a glass eye. I think I've got one.
Oh, I'm not going to touch that with a barge pole. Come back to you later.
Righto, pal.
Bye. It's like Castrol sump cam, full of Castrol, and that's how low you are to the ground here. Fascinating stuff from our race cam engineers, coming up with a different angle for just about every touring car race. Not imported. Sevens technology exported, of course, as we pick up on Tony Longhurst, sitting in the draft now of Mark Scaife down the very long straight here. We'll see Thomas Mazera move from the back of the field up to 14th, and Perkins from 3rd back to 15th. And here comes Noboloni. Tony up on the inside. Be deep under brakes here, and there goes Tony. Is the little opening?
Very nice driving there. He waited. He was nice and patient. He's been a little bit impatient on occasions when he's had John Bowe to contend with.
Jimmy Richards carrying our Nissan race cam as he comes up on the inside of Peter Brock. Beautiful move that on the inside.
He made a good clean exit out of the corner, and Peter just got a little bit out of shape. There's a new tyre on the Commodore this weekend.
Order still Bowe over Tony Longhurst. They've opened up a huge gap over Mark Scaife, and probably 8 or 9 car lengths then back to Johnson, followed of course by Jimmy Richards.
Take Dunlop race cam. Dick goes down the outside under brakes. Brock's got a nice line into the...
Yes. You'd be a bit careful. You didn't cop a Larry back through the window there.
Brock covers his tracks, and while Dick gets pushed wide, Alan Jones takes advantage of that, and Dick goes back even another position.
5 laps to go in this Heat 1 this afternoon of round 6, and it's this close stuff. Let's have a look at Colin Bond. I think he got a bit of help there from Paul Morris, perhaps just a touch, maybe.
Paul actually forgot to put his foot on the brake there. That was...
You weren't as gracious as us. We take our Castrol race cam, riding almost at Castrol sump level with
Tony Longhurst. And this will be fascinating stuff over the tight part of the circuit. Let's see what Tony can do here. Oh,
here's a fire in Bondi's car.
They pulled out the
No, it's Gary Wilmington's Toyota Supra. He's had a big barbecue on 4 wheels there. They've got it out.
Well, he's on top of old Smoky. It looks at, yes, he's out of the car and okay. That's just before the grandstand here at Eastern Creek.
See Tony's on the throttle early. Castrol race cam shows fabulous view under the bottom of the Sierra. The BMW M3's almost got racing car characteristics in the way that it brakes and handles, where the Sierra, the Commodore and the other cars are probably more traditional touring car guys, where your tyres and brakes are really sad after a while. Up on the inside this time, but again the Sierra quicker in a straight line, so then John covers his ground naturally. This is probably an area of vulnerability, but Tony would have to get right round the outside and then almost take some ground off John. That would be a very tough thing to do. Plus there's dust and marbles on the exit, and you can see that when the Sierra runs wide, it closes off the opening quite dramatically. And Dick Johnson in trouble, car number 17. What has happened there? A spin? Any other parties involved? It's hard to tell.
He's really been in the wars today.
And look at Longhurst right on the bumper bar of the Shell Sierra. Can he get up the inside here? If he could just get to at least halfway along it, he'll be able to get under John and aggravate him, but no, he can't do it. The Sierra comes back once again. So now he tries the outside route when they go to this right-hand kink. Pretty impossible thing to do, Alan.
He wants the sling in type, but you mentioned earlier he gets off the engine speed and the Sierra is just a little bit too strong for him in a straight line.
Okay, last corner, coming onto the main straight, the crowd's up on its feet. And Longhurst doing everything he can, but he's going to be shy on horsepower. John Bowe, I think, is going to survive, or will he? It's going to be very, very tight, but no, the Shell Sierra, John Bowe at the helm, takes the win in Heat 1. Tony Longhurst backs away from it in the end and finishes in second place. And those two with a very healthy margin over third placed Mark Scaife, and there he is. He was about 6.5, 7 seconds behind in third.
Bowe, Longhurst the front row. Racing, goodbye, go the Nissan straight between them. They'll be 1, 2, 3 very quickly as Mark Gibbs tries to get up, but Bowe covers his ground very well getting into the bottom corner. Johnson goes in there. Longhurst, of course, couldn't sustain anything off the line, so he's back in the pack a little bit. Down to the second turn now. Mark Gibbs up on the inside. He should have picked up third, but he gets very wobbly on the exit to that turn. They all get through there and now make their run to the top end of the circuit. John Bowe starting fairly well. Larry Perkins at the back of the field, plus 10 seconds because of a change of tyres, and Peter Brock down on the inside of the BMW. There's Dickie Johnson, gets a short back and sides. He's gone sideways off onto the grass.
Just the slightest tap, and Dick was in trouble.
There's
frustrating guy.
Glenn Seaton up there on the inside.
Just looking at the body language from Mark and his car, well, there's a great demonstration. He's really tensing it at the moment as JB goes down the inside and Bowe goes to the lead now. The crowd stands. Pretty exciting motor race. And Bowe to the lead in 18. Scaife back to second. Two things spring to mind. Either Scaife, and the auto colour entry has gone off. The top of the straight.
Yes, the Dulux has had a dunk up there. Oh. So here comes AJ down on the inside of Jimmy Richards.
Very nice move. Very nice move. Yep. Nice and tidy.
Fastest corner on the racetrack through here. But from here, Tony keeps on as Mark tries to get on the binders a bit earlier, and he'll come up the inside, will he? No, he can't. Let's go back to our Castrol race cam. He goes in wide once again. He'll be all over him here. And that's a nice spot. That's where they'll put the tow hitch in the box trailer for Bathurst with the terracotta tyres in it.
Under brakes for the hairpin.
Down to turn number 9. John Bowe gets out of there. He's home on his way for victory here today. Bob Jones getting a lap put on him by Mark Scaife late in the race. Another one of the consistent Commodore privateers. They come into the final turn. There's JB.
Sandown Park all over again.
Yes, from Tasmania. What a great driver. Number 2 to the Dick Johnson team. And here he comes. The Ford wins today at Eastern Creek Raceway. Second goes to Scaife in the Nissan. And the giant killing performance yet again going to Tony Longhurst, who picks up a third. Well done, JB. and welcome to beautiful Wanneroo Park Raceway in Western Australia. Today, the penultimate round of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Well, Wanneroo has been a fairly happy haven for the past few years for Ford Sierras, and not a lot has changed this weekend. I'm sure Alan Moffat will agree that the Ford Sierras look very much the car to beat here, and John Bowe in particular.
Yes, well, he's had 5 pole positions so far in the series, Mike. I think not to be discounted, look out for those GTRs. They're out of the top 6 at the moment, but they'll come through in that second heat.
Well, of course, in points today, let's take a look at the championship points table lead. 190 points shows Mark Scaife as the leader, from 160 his teammate Jimmy Richards. Then on 141, no baloney Tony Longhurst in the BMW, and right behind him Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. And as you can see, John Bowe, the Shell Sierra, starts off pole position with Wayne Park, the Peter Jackson Sierra, alongside Dickie Johnson in the Shell Sierra, starts out at position 3. Tony Longhurst, the Benson and Hedges BMW from 4, and from 5:30, Glenn Seaton. That's a long 10 seconds. Everyone's getting edgy. Go. Bowe pulls the right gear, gets off the line. There goes Jimmy Richards down the outside as Wayne Park lights up the tyres, and Alan Jones gets a shocker of a start out on the grass as they head into the first turn, the right-hander. And as they head out of there, you'll find it's the 2 Shell Sierras with John Bowe, the race leader, Dickie Johnson up into second spot, and I think Glenn Seaton back in the pack just a little bit. Wayne Park looking to pick up third spot. But right behind him is Jimmy Richards. He's making the big moves, and Larry Perkins in the Castrol Commodore sits one back behind them.
Brakes are very important here at the end of that main straight, Mike. It's a 90-degree corner. It's been widened a little bit over the years, but nevertheless, the cars have got to pull up at the end of that straight.
And I think, Glenn, as they hit the 7,500 RPM pop-off, you could hear that explosion there. Now he's forced to tuck in behind.
Well, the GTR will be feeling their weight here today, and yes, feeling a bit more of their way around.
Everyone appreciates that ride underneath the car. And one person who wrote, "No, there is not a cameraman underneath."
So John Bowe opens up the lead, 4 seconds over his teammate Dick Johnson, and Dick in turn has about a 5-second lead over this battle here. So there it is.
As we join Dick on the flight deck, what a day so far. 1-2, pal.
Yeah, so far, Mike, so far.
How the tyres feel?
Well, they're getting a little bit greasy, but I'm trying to look after them enough so I've got enough for the next race too.
Look at this. Scaife having a look down the inside of Park's car. Park's got some loose bodywork, it seems, at the back. They're all starting to lean on each other a bit, getting a bit desperate. There's Longhurst up the inside of Scaife. Scaife's been left high and dry.
Yeah, they boxed him in there nicely, and he can't get by now.
And here comes Alan Jones. He's got the nice line into this corner. He'll go deep under brakes. Scaife gets pushed even wider. Thank you very much.
Yes.
He's lost 2 positions in the length of the straight to the little BMWs. A remarkable feat.
Tony was very sporting there. He could have dived in under brakes.
Go, Tony.
He's having it another go now. That little wiggle on the approach to where the cars are right now is quite distinct. And we saw Jim Richards pass there before, and obviously Tony said, "I'll take advantage there as well. Thank you very much." Here's Alan Jones having a bit of a think. He might lunge down now. Scaife, not to be outdone, wants to get a little bit of ground gathered back up, but not finding it so easy.
He's going to have to go the outside. There's no way. Jones, oh no. Centrifugal force played there, and the 4-wheel drive advantage is snapping off that turn. Have played well into the hands of Mark Scaife again. Jones had it all set up, but here he comes again down on the inside. Scaife tries to cover his ground. Jones says, "Sorry, pal." Back you go again. Now he's got to try and get straight across the inside of the track. So Alan Jones is doing a bit of defensive driving.
Just look how well Jonesy hung on to Scaife as they came out of the loop. It's a big, long haul up that hill. The GTR with more power and certainly much more traction. And Jonesy was right with him as they came over the top of the hill. That is really impressive.
But the Sierra is back for its final season of competition. Last turn comes up, checkered flag at the ready for heat number 1, round number 8. And it goes to John Bowe in car number 18. And strike up a 1-2 for the Shell Sierra team. Dickie Johnson finishes in second. Huge crowd cheer coming up for that one, and Jimmy Richards coming up for third place. Settle back, time to go racing from Wanneroo Park Raceway.
Red light.
Bowe just creeps marginally. Johnson bobbled it at the start badly, ever so badly, and Glenn Seaton shifts ground. Almost taxed onto the back of Dick Johnson's car. That was a shocker from Dick Johnson. But as they make it through turn number 1 and the exit now to Dunlop Corner, You'll find it's John Bauer, and right behind him it'll be Jimmy Richards. Next is Dick Johnson, the second of the Nissans, and then Tony Longhurst up very, very closely behind Glenn Seaton. As they go through the sweeper and now start to work the downhill section to the right-hander. And I think you'll find that the Nissan is well and truly on some trailblazing action here today. It's a good start from Jimmy Richards, but that was made even easier by a terrible start on the part of Dick Johnson, and Scaife is already up to fourth and putting pressure on the Queenslander.
Also a great start from Mark Scaife. He leapt off the fourth or fifth row there, pushed his way up through the field. There he is in fourth place behind Johnson. Johnson only just grappling up to third position after Mike said that terrible start. But there's Jim Richards second. So the Nissan's really taking the fight up to the Sierras in Heat 2.
Yeah, Scaife's not fooling around either now. He's just shadowing Dick Johnson. I think you're going to find this is going to be a real scrap in this heat. Everybody's monitored what they did with their tires in the first round, and now they know it's go for broke. There's no prizes for coming nowhere in this one, and you can see Scaife being much more aggressive than what we witnessed in the first heat. Wayne Park in the pits, obvious engine worries with the bonnet open, and we now have a situation where Tony Longhurst is giving Seaton the same treatment he normally reserves for John Bowe.
2.91 seconds the gap from our race leader John Bowe back to Jimmy Richards and Mark Scaife.
Alan Jones shadowing Tony Longhurst, the two little Benson and Hedges cars running like tops. BMW reliability. They, I don't believe, have missed a beat all this season. Tremendous credit to their preparation and the engineering that goes in that team. Try that sometime when you're driving down Swanson Street, well, which we can't do anymore, but shall we say Pitt Street, Mike? What do we want? Parramatta Road?
It's close, isn't it?
Look at the speed of this BMW out of that corner. That is remarkable how quickly it gets up the hill.
You see Seaton guarding every inch of the road.
Seaton seems to be rubbing a tyre there. Smoke coming off the...
I tell you what, when they make their lunge here, it's going to be 2 for 1.
He's basically got it.
Oh, he is. He's rubbing a tyre.
He's had it. That'll be hurting him.
See on our Castrol race cam last time around, he got very, very close to the back of Seaton's car. I don't know whether they touched. Seaton now has bodywork rubbing on his left rear tyre.
Isn't that a fabulous shot? Now he rubs the bodywork there, and when he gets the car straight,
Tony will be breathing these fumes. It's hard enough putting up with the fumes that come out of into your own cockpit, but when you got to put up with somebody else's as well, it can be quite toxic.
And it's Tony Longhurst finding a little inside edge here on Glenn Seaton, car number 30, the Peter Jackson Sierra. And that was the only invitation teammate Alan Jones needed. They were able to perpetrate a 1-2 straight through on the inside. Glenn had been rubbing a tyre the last couple of laps, but now they've been able to get through. So whether Tony Longhurst can go on with it from here, only time will tell. About 2.5 seconds. The gap at it already as they get one of the Alfa Baghello cars out of the way and head up the hill again. Bowe tries to consolidate, but I'll tell you, right behind Dick Johnson, Tony Longhurst is Storm Norman. And as we take Dunlop race cam, just guess who is sitting in behind Dickie Johnson? Tony Longhurst, zippity-doo-dah, up on the inside with the Dunlop race cam, and away goes Tony. Now don't tell me he's not the mover in the field. That really did catch Johnson. JB's got not much he can do about it if he's out of tyres. We'll have to wait and see as they come down the hill.
You won't want to lock the brakes up now. Slide right off the circuit.
We have seen situations, particularly Winton, when Longhurst was all over the back of Bowe. He just managed to hang on lap after lap after lap. I wonder if he can produce that same sort of durability this time.
Well, it's hard to do that on bicycle tyres with this one. And Dick is skating around just a little bit. The exit to that turn now, you'll see that Gibbs will try and get up the inside. 3 laps to go.
Whoop, there goes Mark Scaife.
Down just at the end of the straight.
The crowd reacting below us here. There it is. Mark Scaife, he's just come off at the most unusual spot, just beyond the pit entry lane.
And they're all going to get Scaife. His championship is sitting there. Scaife has gone off at the end near the edge of the sand trap and the entrance to the pits.
Trying to pick up reverse gear with those big racing tyres. He hasn't got a lot of lock that he can wind on, so he's trying to squeeze through. And meanwhile, the battle here, Johnson trying to hold off this gaggle. Glenn Seaton goes up the inside.
There was a touch for sure.
Oh, there There he goes.
More than a touch. They're all over the place. Johnson goes off into the dust.
Johnson trying to catch first gear if he can and get out of there.
So all of a sudden, all hell's broken loose. Scaife, he seems to have vanished. Don't know where he's
gone
got
into
to.
the pits.
There he is.
He's gone into the pits, but this is going to get away from him. He couldn't believe this. It was all set up for the championship. But at this stage, 2 laps to go. And here's the man that's going to spoil the Nissan birthday. It's John Bowe coming down the front straight.
Jim Richards is nailed back about another car length. And
he knows what's on now. Richards knows that if he can get up and get past John Bowe here, because Scaife is now out of the equation. There goes Mark Scaife, a lengthy pit stop. He's going to come in and finish last today.
He's been lapped by the whole field, so Scaife is out of the equation. Here's the battle for the lead and the win of the day. John Bowe and Jim Richards locked in battle.
Oh, here he comes. Here's the move down the inside.
Now this really is a remarkable performance from Bowe. He's done a number of rounds before.
Get set, John. Here it comes. The challenge on the inside. Try and get back to the inside. That's what he'll have to do because Jim, with a lap and a quarter to go.
Well, that's Bowe's trump card. He has got that straight line speed coming up the hill.
But he can't do anything foolish. He can't float it in and get the tail loose on the car.
Last lap. Here comes Bowe. Richards getting sideways, bouncing off the curbs. He's trying everything that he knows to get past Bowe here. And if John can withstand the pressure on this last 2.4 kilometres, there's the last lap board.
Yes, we know that. We get back to
Richards goes up the inside.
Bang! Touch! Whoa! Crowd is standing and screaming here at Wanneroo Park. Now that's made sure he hasn't folded one of those fenders over a tyre. That's not Jim's way of driving anyway. That was just a racing incident, but he's going to come down the inside of Bowe here. And I think Jim maybe have even caught a tyre. Let's wait and see. This is a dramatic penultimate round of the Shell Touring Car Championship. Bowe just feathering it through here. Get it straight. Bring on the power. And bring it up the hill because Richards is sitting alongside and Bowe's trying to get down the inside.
There it is. That's his trump card. That extra power. He's got Richards covered as they come down to the braking point for the last time.
Here's Jim Richards going to haul it on the inside, or can John Bowe keep it straight? He's got to get back to the inside.
Richards gets the power on. He's got a guard alongside. This is a drag to the line. The crowd's going crazy.
Bowe wins it. That has ruined the Nissan Challenge at Wanneroo Park because John Bowe has won both ends of round 8 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Second spot will go to Jimmy Richards. Fabulous drive from Richards. Forget that little touch of cars. That's not Jimmy's style of driving. And Tony Longhurst will pick up third place, and the crowd have gone nuts.
He loved that.
At Wanneroo Park this afternoon.
It was a great day for all our guys. The Shell team have done a tremendous job this year, and Dunlop have done a great job with the tyres, and it's a pleasure to race with a gentleman such as Jim.
And welcome to Oran Park Raceway near Sydney and grand final day of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Well, can Mark Scaife do it today? Will Jim Richards rob him of the crown? And what are the roles to be played by Tony Longhurst and John Bowe? Alan Moffat, I'm sure you'll agree, we've got a few things there to work out this afternoon.
We have, and some cruel fate to Tony Longhurst this morning, mate. That was really bad luck.
Certainly. Actually, the Peter Jackson Dash normally starts proceedings at the racetrack. The top 6 draw out, and John Bowe, of course, had the outside of the front row heading down to the first turn. But as you can see, Tony Longhurst slid across the track after being punted from behind by Mark Gibson, the GIO. Look out to the left. Gibbs on the grass, swacked straight into the side of Tony Longhurst. He finished up going across the track and flat-spotted 4 tyres. John Bowe, in the meantime, went on to win it and win it very, very comfortably indeed. There was a helter-skelter for the minor placings, but Bowe picked up $29,000 through winning the Peter Jackson Dash Series. That puts him on pole position for today. I don't know whether Sierra actually has the legs against the Nissan. They've got a marvellous record here.
I think the Nissan has still got the chance to do it, and Freddie Gibson won't be taking any chances wanting to win the championship either for Mark Scaife or Jim Richards.
And John Bowe, Mr. Consistency in the Shell Sierra. Sharing the front row. Watch the Nissans get off the line. There they go. Goodbye all. As expected, they tear off into the distance. Bowe made an absolute shocker of a start. He's gone back about 8 spots, and even worse was Longhurst, who had to wait 10 seconds after they'd taken off. That's what the rules say. Mark Scaife getting through very, very smartly, and Mark Gibbs, of course, the man deemed to perhaps have caused Longhurst's woes, started back in the top 6. Straight down on the inside, a Nissan race cam shows it.
Jim doesn't seem perturbed at all. I think Jim has resigned himself to the fact of who's going to win this one today. I don't think it's Jim.
I asked him yesterday how he was mentally ready for it. He said, no, well, it's Scabies Championship, so he's prepared to sit there and let him go. 3 GTRs when they have to do it, or they want to do it. Yeah. The Cam's handicapping system has been criticized all season, and it was just absolutely dreadful to hear that 100 kilos have been put on these cars, but hasn't done anything to them.
No, you're right. Oh, John Bow gets it loose. Tail into the wall then, and that may be rubbing against the tyre.
Really hurting there now.
He hit that concrete wall very hard. You captured that on the camera there, and the bodywork is rubbing. Smoke billowing from the back of the car. John gave the wall a real clout when he came out onto the main straight there.
That's a good example of power oversteer, it's called.
Look at this. He got tore the flare off too, I think, on the way through.
He's lost his driver's mirror as well.
I don't think he'll be worrying about that, but the smell of that smoke in the cockpit is always nerve-wracking, and it certainly doesn't look too good for him.
We're taking our Castrol race cam. Keeping in mind this is riding under the front of Tony Longhurst's car. Just give you an indication of how quickly he's picking up the field as Jimmy Richards up on the inside of Mark Gibbs. They go down the front straight at Oran Park. Certainly here's Dickie Johnson with Tony Longhurst down the inside of him as he comes storming through the field.
We've got a circuit breaker that keeps popping and stopping, cutting the fuel off.
There we go.
Thanks, Colin.
On cue.
No need for us to say anything.
So Longhurst up to 6th.
That was an easy one at the end of the straight under Larry. Larry dabbing the brakes, Longhurst straight by him on the inside.
He's just peeling them off one by one. Tremendous charge from the little BMW.
Last corner now for Mark Scaife. He's going to take heat 1. Jim Richards has closed right up. They make the run towards the checkered flag, and Mark Scaife takes the win. Tremendous performance. Second place goes to Jimmy Richards. Enormous gap back to Mark Gibbs. There's Gibbsy. And it's on for Young and Holden. We've got Alan Jones, and look at Glenn Seaton side by side with Tony Longhurst, and it runs in favour of Seaton. That was a thrilling finish, a great charge from Tony. Boy, they don't come much closer than that.
It's been a great series, no doubt about it. Best touring car racing, the closest racing that we've seen during season 92. Let's wait for the final. We're ready for the grand final at Oran Park. We're about 4 seconds away from the start. Will it be Nissan or Tony Longhurst split them in the opening lap? They're off, the 2 Nissans. See you guys. Jones races into wheel spin. Perkins goes down the inside. He's gathered up smartly by Dick Johnson. Not the best of starts from Tony Longhurst. The Bim has suffered badly off the start. And you'll see the 3 Nissan GTRs will lead them down into turn number 1. Brock made a blinder down the outside. Glenn Seaton also a good start. There on the outside is Tony Longhurst, and John Bow has gained about 9 spots so far as the Nissans close it up, heading down to the right-hand turn.
Great start from Peter Brock, as you said, Mike. And there's John Bow tucked in behind the mobile Commodore. John damaged the car, as you saw in the first heat, when he rammed it really hard against the wall coming onto the main straight. They've done the body repairs required, and actually that's Dick Johnson in front of his teammate there, so Bow in behind the first of the BMWs.
He has done well, because Bow in fact started out of position 15, I think it was, in the pack. So he has made a long run at the field, got up very smartly. Up to 9th already. There's Larry Perkins and Peter Brock right behind him. As they break it into single file, they run downhill for the approach to Goodyear. Glenn Seaton a little wobbly getting out of that turn. Bounding down to the bottom corner, Larry Perkins sits in and he splits the BMW as they come across the line. Scaife the leader, Richards in second, and Mark Gibbs. Look at this, John Bow down the inside of Tony Longhurst. No, beg your pardons. There's Bow. Oh,
we've seen it
quite clean under there too.
We've seen it so many times this year, Mike. The BMW and John Bow Sierra. These two have been locked in battle in so many heats of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship this year. One of them ending in controversial circumstances at Winton, but it hasn't detracted from the excellent sense of competition between these two cars. This battle continues. The old protagonists, and Longhurst went out wide there. John Bow has him, and they come onto the main straight. Look at the straight line speed of this BMW. 2.5 litre 4-cylinder engine. They're getting an enormous amount of revs out of these engines this year. John Bow showing the superior power of the Turbo Ford Sierra.
But here's our leaders. Mark Scaife going through. That's second. Jimmy Richards protecting. And then third is Mark Gibson, the GIO Commodore. Alan Jones is in fourth place. There's Glenn Seaton going through in fifth. Sixth is Larry Perkins. Seventh is Brock. Eighth is Bower. And ninth is Tony Longhurst. Larry's thing just gathers in some more 200 HP.
They're playing with fire here. They're playing with fire here. Exactly what we've seen happen earlier. You have to have the real estate in front of you to make a move like that. And once he lost traction with his brakes, he was out of control. He had to let the car go.
Well, you can see in the last 2 or 3 laps, Brock was in big trouble. He was locking brakes everywhere. The car was sliding and slipping. He's having difficulty getting the power. Now let's have a look at that again on the replay. Big lock up. Brock goes offline. When the back wheel gets onto the dirt, he's gone. Larry locks everything up to try and avoid him. The other guys got around him quite well, actually.
And you notice.
And
Larry
slips off.
Larry did a good job there. 3 laps to go. Mark Gibbs has been the big winner out of all of this. As we showed you that replay, he's found a path past Perkins. Morris is down now.
Yes, well, Larry had very little defence against that move as well. He's at the end of his tether.
Oh, let's take the Castrol race cam up this time on the inside of Seaton. The corner gets narrower.
Wow. Aggressive.
Oh, that's all right.
Hear the contact.
Sorry,
thanks. Yeah, that was a thanks, I'll see you later wave. That wasn't really a thanks for getting over. That was the famous Sterling Moss wave.
Well, I tell you what, it's caused a problem. I don't know whether he's got a tyre that's flat. Yes, he has.
Puncture, right front, can't do a thing, can hardly steer it.
They come into the final corner now. Crowd already to its feet to acknowledge and to salute Mark Scaife, the 92 Shell Australian Touring Car Champion. Second spot goes to Jimmy Richards in a form finish across the line. And third still to come in as they head down into the bottom turn. And it should be Alan Jones. There he is there on camera, coming out of the last corner to finish in third place. So behind the 2 Nissans, it was Daylight back to third, and even more Daylight back to fourth, and that happened to be his team partner, Tony Longhurst, in the number 25 B&H BMW. And ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce to you, for Shell Australia, the youngest touring car champion in our history, Mark Scaife. I bet that feels super, does it?
It's fantastic. The guys have worked very hard all year, and you know, to Gibson Motorsport, Winfield, Nissan, Yokohama, Shell, Australian Airlines, all our sponsors, thank you very much.
Good boy, Mark Scaife. And to put the sash on you, Tommy Smith from Shell. Being a Shell boy, you'd appreciate that.
Congratulations, Mark. Not only a great race today, but a magnificent season. Well done.
Thank you very much. We do it every time, Tommy, don't we?
Final points in the championship, Mark Scaife and Jimmy Richards for Winfield Team Nissan, 1-2. Tony Longhurst third in the series on 184. John Bowers next on 175 and Glenn Seaton on 173. What a series, Alan Moffat.
Well, it was great, but certainly 1993 is going to be even more exciting.
Today's motor racing telecast was proudly brought to you by Synovus Vitamins and Shell. Go well, go Shell. This has been another 7 Sport production, the network of the 1992 Barcelona Olympics.
So it was slim pickings for the VN Group A SS in the 91 and 92 Australian Touring Car Championship in the shorter races. But the big V8s are always at home on the mountain. Let's have a look now at how the VNs fared in the 1991 Bathurst 1000, the James Hardy of that year. Alan Grice and Wyn Percy were the best of the VN runners. They were the reigning champions in the 1000. So they won the 1990 event. They followed that 1990 victory with second place in 91 against much stiffer opposition in the form of Godzilla at the height of its powers, the Nissan GTR. So second place came despite a spin early for Win Percy in the event. The other VNs didn't fare quite so well. There was some mechanical issues for Peter Brock in the car he shared with Andrew Medici, and the other of the HRT cars, teammate to Percy and Grice, broke down top of the mountain. Actually, they ran out of fuel, as we will soon see. So, despite the strong opposition, there was 3 VN Commodores in the top 10 in the 91 James Hardy 1000, which matched the best of any model that year. So let's go back 20 years, sit back, enjoy the 91 James Hardy 1000.
7 Network welcomes you to Bathurst. The 29th edition of the Great Race. They're racing off the starting line. We take chopper cam, and you can see that Mark Gibbs has absolutely stonewalled them off the start, and in fact I wouldn't be surprising to see whether Dick Johnson has been able to get up on the outside. Jim Richards missed the kick initially, but they're all through the first turn and heading up Mountain Straight now for the first time. No incidents through past the sand trap. And Mark Gibbs, the young Sydney driver, driving for Bob Forbes Racing in the GIO Nissan. There he is, out in front. Jimmy Richards back in third, and it looks like a great start from Dickie Johnson or John Bauer.
Nissan Ford as they head up the mountain for the first time. A poor start from Richards, but he did get it going. Look at this, the GIO car of Gibbs Onslow. These young guys have got a lot to prove, and they will be rapt to be leading the first lap of this race.
And Glenn Seaton coming back after a tardy start, slipped from 3rd position on the grid back to about 9th, but has recovered a few places already.
You can't win this one in one lap, but Mark Gibbs is sprinting. The 2 Johnson Sierras, 2nd and 4th, split by Jimmy Richards, and wait for the crowd to acknowledge Peter Brock and the Holden set at the top of the mountain. Here's Richards sitting in behind Johnson.
There's the second of the Nissan GTRs, the Price Walden car. Peter Brock just ahead of him, holding up the Holden flag on the first lap around.
Coming down towards the dipper. The exit from there. Win Percy up with them. Beautiful shot from our chopper at the top of Mount Panorama as they run down towards Mazda Forest Elbow. And an incident-free start to the event as they work their way now onto Conrod Straight for the first time. One of the early ones, our car number 32, with a head gasket problem in the pits already.
Bobby Tyndall. Big disappointment for him.
Yes, they would be. That's the GIO car that's cross-entered for Gibbs and Onslow, so they haven't got another car to fall back on. But boy, if they got the pedal down in this opening lap, they've opened about 100 metres on the field as they come through Caltex Chase the first time around.
Notice one of the Moffat cars already up alongside Win Percy, and down on the brakes comes Jim Richards, takes the number 18 car. Dick Johnson sits in behind as they strike off the first lap here at Mount Panorama. Mark Gibbs, driving for Bob Forbes Racing in the Nissan, sponsored by GIO, will lead them up Mountain Straight for the second time.
Nissan first and second, then the 2 Shell Team Sierras, followed by the second of the Nissan team cars.
They go beneath the Nissan bridge. What a beautiful start. Let's have a look at the Prima Holiday replay as we take our race cam with Dick Johnson. He got away very smartly behind them, and it was John Bauer up on the outside who was able to slot into second place behind Gibbs, then Richards, then Johnson.
Nose to tail, the next half dozen. Glenn Seaton going through, Neil Crompton, or Brad Jones rather, in the number 7 Holden dealer team car.
Well, the beauty for Jimmy Richards here is that he's got a second car to fall back on if something goes wrong with this car, so they can really use the lead car as the hare and make all the tortoises follow.
Dies for the lead now as Mark Gibbs in the GIO Nissan is passed by Jimmy Richards on the outside. Richards sneaks up, takes the lead away. Gibson will now fall in behind. They've already established quite a break over the rest of the field. The exit from Repco Corner, and they work their way now towards BP Cutting. Look at this as Glenn Seaton on the inside. Here he comes, car number 30, through on the inside of Dick Johnson. He may have missed the start, as Gary pointed out. Wow, straight over the top of their track cam is Jim Richards, the exit from Mazda Corner, and he now works Conrod Straight. That's the gap back to second. Mark Gibbs, a little taily coming out of there, then followed by John Bauer. Next one is Drew Price. Then Glenn Seaton and those bunch of Holdens right behind him. One of the Corollas just down a lap already as Richard sprints down Conrod Straight. Here comes Seaton down the outside of the Sierra. Now down on the brakes through the gears when Percy closes up on the tail of the Pride of Queensland, but gets it sideways. And out goes Percy. Will he hit the wall? He saves it. Brakes are locked on. Percy has been able to save that, the 16 car.
But there is damage on that front right-hand guard. Look at that. That tyre is almost rubbing there. That is expensive for HRT. Let's see if Percy comes into the pits.
Well, he should come in immediately.
Yeah, the tyre is rubbing. You can see smoke coming off the front tyre, but he's going to do another lap. Now, this will be critical to the result of this car in this race. I'm sure he's not aware that he has this problem.
It looks like the Product car has gone into the wall, or the tyre wall at the top of the mountain. Let's have a look at this with our Prima Holiday replay. 33. Oh, dearie me. He's launched that. That's the Pearson Stewart car. Bob Pearson.
Bruce Stewart.
And veteran Bruce Stewart, who's been here for a number of years.
What a shame.
And that has really tweaked the front and the rear of the car.
05, the Peter Brock Mobile Commodore is in trouble. Andrew Madecki at the wheel. He's stopped on the climb up toward the cutting.
He's got nothing going there.
No. That 5-litre V8 is dead as a doornail.
Well, they've had considerable problems with this car today. They had turbo damage earlier that kept them in the pits for a considerable while. Shuffled them right back to the back of the field, and they're in serious problem. Can't see until they come around the next curve what the problem is. Front right, by the look of it, it's either missing altogether or very... it's missing altogether, all right.
Ooh, there's doing some damage there. Lower ball joint of the suspension being ground away.
Meantime, John Brady, we've got a shot here from race cam of Andrew Madecki working on the 05 Brock car, all on his own some. Still parked at the side of the circuit, trying to figure out what the problem is with this car and try and get it back up and running, because the laps are ticking away and it's becoming almost an impossible task. Lost another one.
Now, that might be the same car. We get a look at it side on. If it's 44, it's dumped another wheel. 43.
Sister car.
The team car. So there's 3 Sierras have lost the left front wheel. Sorry, is that the left front?
It's the right front.
Right front,
yeah.
Sorry. And left and right-hand drive cars, very confusing.
There's problems for the Neil Crompton, Bradley Jones, number 7 Holden Racing Team Commodore. Crompton had taken the car up to 9th on the road. He's had a shunt somewhere around the circuit. They've hit it with the 100-mile-an-hour tape, the silver tape. They're trying to make sure that there's nothing damaged. Crompton decided to bring the car in just at the same time. That's our bumper cam sitting out the front, giving you the best view. The other good news is Andrew Madecki has passed the TAFE course and has the 05 car back and mobile, or limping anyway towards the pits. Nissan number 1 car, Jim Richards, pitted and rejoined the race, still in the lead, so they have not dropped the lead away.
We've got a wheel coming off.
Was it a wheel coming off, or he might have a puncture? That tyre looked to be a little bit down as he went up the mountain.
Longhurst was in 5th place.
Here goes the tyre.
He's about to lose it. The 20 car was in 10th place.
I've seen Dick Johnson in a similar situation in his Mustang several years ago, and he managed to hold it all together. Well, Larry Perkins at the wheel at the time, and bring it down the mountain safely. But there's no guarantees here. That tyre is going to get shredded very badly by the time he's down toward the pits.
Oh. Car 20 has left the pits with Denny Hulme at the wheel.
That is a rotten piece of luck for BMW, running so strongly at 3rd position at one stage. Yes, Neil Crompton, Brad Jones, number 7, the second of the HRT team cars, getting pushed to the side of the road.
Bond rejoins the race in 10th position, dropped 2 spots there on the changeover.
What happened, son?
We're out of gas, very high-tech problem.
Oh.
Switched the reserve on as we came up pit straight. That was the first indication of the car coughing, and she only made it to the cutting.
Colin Bond, car number 8, the Caltech Sierra. This is a replay of exactly what happened or what led to the pit stop. Have a look. Bang. Dearie me, recovered that well.
Oh dear. Smoke pouring from the front left-hand wheel.
That's looking fairly terminal. And that's looking even worse.
Yep, the Seaton car was coughing and spluttering its way out.
and it hasn't even made it out of pit lane. I can see the Peter Jackson pit crew running up the end of the pit lane to pull it back. Oh, look at this. Smoke pouring out the inside of the cockpit of the 17 car. John Bowe getting covered in smoke and fumes. The wheels shaking, obviously a problem on the front left-hand corner of the car. But he's only a couple of 100 metres from pit lane, so he should make it back. That's quite a barbecue in the 17 car. Meanwhile, car 18 comes in.
This is going to be good when 17 arrives.
Yeah, we're going to have 2 Shell Sierras, or one of them at least, not on a scheduled stop. And Johnson's recent bad luck continues. 1991 has not been his year.
Well, there's even bigger problems. The Johnson car is coming back, and they're pushing the Peter Jackson car back at the same time down pit lane.
So 3 Sierras there in trouble.
Engine gone in 9.
We're only just saying, it's amazing. That was not a Channel 7 voodoo, but we're just saying how well the Millen Brabham car was going. One of the Moffat Sierras, and here it is limping up the mountain with smoke belching from the exhaust.
Coming down the Conrod Straight the last time before I came in the pits, it just got really soft and I could smell some oil and so on, which is an indication that the turbochargers failed.
Yep. Well, that's desperately bad luck for you guys. You've put on a great act so far this week with both cars. First time at Bathurst. Yeah. What are your reflections on the race?
It's a fantastic event. I'm really impressed with the facility and the professionalism, the organisation of the place, and the preparation of the cars. Alan Moffat's given us a really good car, but it's just really great to be here. It's a race I've always wanted to do, and I hope I can come back.
Well, there's the #1 car that dictates the pace. As we check out the Caltex race score, Richards and Scaife leading in the Nissan GTR. Percy and Grice, the defending champions, run in second. Gibson, Onslow and the GIO Nissan GTR run third. Brancatelli and Charlie O'Brien and the Synovus Vitamin Sierra run in fourth. Fifth is Radicic and Shield. Position #6, Fitzgerald and Denny Holm in the B and H BMW. Kevin Waldock and Brett Peters, great effort that, up to 7th. 8th is Bond and Crosby in the Caltex Sierra. 9th, the number 30 car, it's just dropped out, and that moves now Tim and Alf Grant. One more spot. Well, that's shades of last year, isn't that bad luck? Dave Barrow.
These guys
clouded that on the wall, hasn't turned, and now the 43 car. Straight off into the sand trap.
Goodness me. These 2 cars had a heck of a day.
Brian Bolwell, who put the package together, has wound up with some rather expensive repair bills. Queensland Plastics entry. Bad luck to Brian as we take our race cam. Sitting on top of Colin Bond's Caltex Sierra, car number 8.
Car 8 running in position 8. So Bondi sitting in the top 10 for most of the day. Had a few problems earlier on, but managed to get it together, and the car seemingly running reliably now. And there's our other race cam looking down the side of the Sierra. This gives you a good idea of the tyre distortions, how much the wheels move and the car slides around on the surface of the track. Holman and Fitzgerald continue in the one surviving B&H BMW.
They're running 6th outright too.
Well, one of them's hung together. This is a good effort from these guys.
7th spot held by Kevin Waldock and Brett Peters. That's another great effort from them. As Jimmy Richards comes down at the end of Conrod Straight.
Well, 10 years ago, 1981, Nissan began their campaign for outright honours at Mount Panorama.
Last lap board out. As Gentleman Jim looks for Bathurst victory, number 4. To the end of pit straight. Now up the mountain for the final time. The order. Oops, we've had one go off. Looks like the Dillman car there off on the side of the road. The little BMW. It was running second in its class. Yes, it's parked on the side of the road. So the order is Richards over Wynne Percy, Alan Grice, and Mark Gibbs, Rowan, Onslow, as Bondi trying to limp round just to finish this lap off. Still running in 8th. This would still be a lonely time for Freddie Gibson to be so close, but we've seen things happen. Fred can remember leading one of the races here, popping a tyre and winding on his lid at Skyline. But the crowd should be ready to salute Jimmy Richards. And that they do. as he heads down towards the 2WS sweeper for the final time. And here he comes. A great cheer for Gentleman Jim on his way to victory. And what a great year, the Australian Touring Car Championship. He's had to fight the young Turk, Mark Scaife, that has been groomed well and truly by Nissan. But with Mark in the car for pole day sprints and pole position for the race, and Jim there for the victory, somehow it all seems fair this afternoon at Bathurst.
Yes, when you think of the long list of Bathurst campaigns by this company, drivers like George Fury, Glenn Seaton, Terry Shield, Gary Scott, boys who've all been aboard Nissan products at one stage or another, always coming very close but never close enough. Well, looks like they're going to do it, and it's certainly well-deserved. Nissan, a long-time commitment to motorsport in this country and around the world, and they certainly deserve the success at Mount Panorama today.
Down to Caltech's chase now for the final time. A smile breaks out on the face of Fred Gibson. Anticipation on the face of Mark Scaife. The run down to the final corner. Here he comes. The very last corner of the 1991 Tooheys 1000 at Mount Panorama, Bathurst. Checkered flag, Jim Richards, Nissan. That's his car. The whole exercise has been worthwhile for Fred Gibson Motorsport. Jubilant scenes as Jimmy Richards heads up Mountain Straight. Jim would love all of this. Win Percy, Alan Grice will finish second in the Holden Racing Team Commodore. Third place will go to Bob Forbes Racing, the GIO Nissan GTR of Mark Gibbs and Rowan Onslow. And fourth place, well done to Alan Moffat, the Sonoma's Vitamins Ford Sierra with Big Charlie O'Brien and John Franco Brancatelli.
We hope you enjoyed the 20 years of the Holden Commodore VN SS Group A and our step back in time.